Betting windows are closed. Here it is, the big opening to the show today. Welcome to the One Up Yours podcast for Friday, June the 8th. We got an excellent show for you. I'm Garnet Lee. This is John Davison on my left, Shane Bettenhausen across, and in the fourth chair today, Mr. Patrick Klepek.
Hello.
News editor extraordinaire.
And the only one under 30 on this podcast, I think.
We chose...
Andrew's
excluding Andrew.
Well, but we chose you because you'd bring a youthful exuberance to the podcast.
Youthful exuberance.
Straight out of college, less than a month.
It's like straight out of college.
You can tell us what the kids are playing.
I can. Or not playing.
That's very... Yes, that was tough. Anyway, folks, we got a great show for you coming today. We got the What You Been Playing segment coming up in the first segment. In the second segment, we've got a kind of twist on the 4-minute warning. We've done 4-minute warning before. There is the buzzer. Usually in 4-minute warning, we have a thread up on the message boards, and due to the board changeover, that thread did get a little bit buried. I will start a new one for the upcoming session. So what I did was I went back to that thread, grabbed some of the stuff we hadn't used, and then I started going through the boards, and I got to tell you, that consolidation thing, kind of working out. There are some excellent discussion threads right there on boards.oneup.com. We're going to hit some of those topics in the second period, and in the third period, news. We got a news guy.
Hey.
Let's see how he does. He's a little green.
We got a news guy.
No pressure.
Yeah, really.
Don't fuck it up.
And I'm sure he doesn't listen.
Haven't heard enough from the boards.
Oh, Luke's listening. I was talking to Luke.
Right.
He's listening.
Is he?
Oh, yeah.
We won't haze you much. And on top of everything else, we have an excellent bottle of Jameson here from one of our listeners.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So one of our listeners brought this by here.
Then I'm going to have some.
Little Jameson 12-year Irish whiskey, and then this will go very well with your Heineken.
Yeah, I'll wash it down.
So we've got a great show. Let's get this shit going, man. Come on. Who's been playing games?
Patrick, what have you been playing?
I guess if by playing you mean driving 38 hours across the country.
Oh, wait, did you wreck your car?
No, I hope not. It's a rental car.
-5 right there.
Swear to God, I killed at least 3,500 bugs, though. And I made a purposeful, intent not to clean any of it, so that when I took it back, the entire car just looked like shit when I turned it back. But it was all bugs everywhere.
Does he get bonus points for killing bugs?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I don't think so.
So were you playing any portable games during the off?
Not really.
Not so much?
I mean, I was trying to get here as quick as possible, so it was basically just back, forth, unless you caught, slot machine games at Vegas.
Not so much.
No, not so much.
Did you win anything?
Didn't win. Well, unless you count the Indiana Jones game, treated me well at 350.
Oh, nice.
With a period after the 3.
Oh. So really you haven't been playing any video games?
No, pretty much not. I mean...
This is a video game podcast, all right? I don't know if you knew what you're getting into.
Started this week, but what I can tell you is just coming out of school, what kids aren't playing is anything next gen.
They can't afford it. They're starving college kids. They spend all the money on beer, drugs.
I guess suppose it depends on One Up Yours definition of next gen, which would mean everyone's playing Wii.
Because they're drunk.
It is the drunk game of choice.
Yeah, of course.
Really?
It is the drunk game of
Wii
choice.
Sports?
You come back with Wii Sports,
Dude,
Cooking Mama,
good
WarioWare. That's the perfect thing to do once they've closed down the bars, too.
Cooking
You haven't
mama?
lived it. You've cooked while drunk.
Seriously?
You can't cook shit on your own.
Man, I'm going to make up
You're not
soba
in any
noodle right
shape
now.
to cook any ramen or popcorn. So,
The whole thing is absurd.
Wow.
but yeah, not a single. I don't know a single person on campus that owns a PlayStation.
So somehow, being older and looking back at my college days, I'm thinking, you know what? Actually, my college days were pretty fucking good because we weren't going back to the dorms and playing.
To games where you roll sushi?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm telling you, if we were rolling sushi with an entirely other meaning.
Lots of big burly jocks and everything going, oh, that's delightfully done. That's beautiful.
I love what you do with the garnish. No, that's...
Man, you never hit the timing right on that frying.
Yeah, so you're a complete disaster, quite
I know. Pretty much Castlevania DS.
Which one?
That's it. All of them.
Oh, okay, good.
Behind on everything.
Is this like some kind of news editor, you have to come in and start playing Castlevania on your DS?
Well,
by the way, you can't play one of them. You have to start 3 or 4 at once.
Haven't finished any of them.
We hire a news editor who immediately stops playing games.
I haven't played a game except for Xbox Live Arcade, Nintendo Wii, Virtual Console the past year. Just don't have time.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad we had you on. I'm very glad we hired you. Well, yeah.
Thank you.
I think he's still what you call an at-will employee. Just saying.
I don't think the paperwork's gone through yet.
Did you sign anything? Yeah.
What will you be playing, maybe?
What do you want to play?
Well, my 360's on the way out, probably just like everybody else's.
Hey, I broke 2.
Yep. Well, mine won't. I'm getting the dirty disc errors. It won't play anything.
No Ring of Death yet. That's good.
No Ring of Death yet, but perfectly unscratched games, unplayable.
Yeah, it happens.
So
does vertical or horizontal make a difference?
Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't. I've been having the problem about a month now, but it's the same old thing.
So you're not going to be playing 360 games?
Nope. Can't afford a PS3 yet.
Well, this has been an inspiring few minutes. Well, Shane, what have you been playing?
All right, we were in the death throes of deadline. I barely had time, but I did still play games. I'm totally addicted to Planet Puzzle League, which I talked about briefly last week.
I cannot find a copy of that anywhere.
Because it's so damn good. Everybody's buying it.
Yep,
It is the best puzzle game ever made.
What makes it so good?
Whoa, really?
Well, it's been the best puzzle game ever made ever since it first came out for Super Nintendo when it was called Tetris Attack, and every incarnation since then has been awesome. But this is the best one yet because they finally went and added some really huge changes that really alter the game. For example, there's touch panel control, and if you're an old school player like me, you're going to think, well, I'm better with my fingers and the D-pad. But no, you really want to learn to use touch panel because the dexterity, the speed, you can do moves, and you can change things much more quickly than you can with the D-pad. So even if you're an established player, you should learn to use the touch panel.
So just for people that don't know what it is,
it's very simple.
What does it have in common with Tetris?
Almost nothing. It's not a drop.
So it was called Tetris Attack.
Right, because at the time Nintendo owned the Tetris license, and to sell it, they're like, well, people like Tetris, we'll call this Tetris Attack. In Japan, it's called Panel de Pon, right? And now it's called Planet Puzzle League. But basically what happens is, instead of blocks falling from the sky, blocks raise up from the bottom, and if the stack hits the top of your screen, your game is over. Mm-hmm. And what you're trying to do is match up like-colored blocks, either in 3s, 4s, 5s, or in combinations, touching vertically or horizontally. And you can only move blocks horizontally, not vertically, and you basically just transpose the position of 2 blocks by pressing the button.
Patrick, in case you were a little confused because you haven't,
what is
this is your first podcast. We actually don't have cameras in here, so the hand gesturing part, people aren't actually seeing that.
Anyway, so it is excellent.
Thanks.
And it's perfectly balanced, and as a multiplayer game, when you make these amazing combos, it sends garbage blocks over to your opponent that inundate him and he's going to die. And it's a game where you can play really quickly and try to make small matches, but true elite play happens when you set up these amazing chain reactions that can clear your entire screen and doing massive combos. And it's really tense, really high speed. It's really I've played all the puzzle games. I love puzzle games, and it is the best puzzle game ever made, and it's inarguable. It's
wow,
indelible fact.
It's inarguable. You heard it here.
Is multiplayer versus one-on-one, or are there more? Can you do 4-player, or is there anything like that?
It's funny. I haven't actually tried. I think it might have 4-player. I've only done 2-player, but the GameCube version had 4-player, and that was a little fucked up because in that mode, the garbage blocks were randomly assigned, so it was possible to get your own garbage blocks, which was the worst thing ever. Oh. Yeah, you do this amazing.
So you didn't want to do good.
You almost didn't. Yeah, so I haven't tried that mode yet, but it does have Wi-Fi play. It has one-cart multiplay. It has all these cool new modes. There's called a daily play mode. It's almost like a little bit of brain age. You can only play it once a day, and it's specific things that you have to do, and
keep
track of your progress. Yeah, and it's really interesting. There's all sorts of new graphic sets. It's just awesome. If you like puzzle games and have a DS, go buy this game.
So we know that you like to play shoe for money on things.
I do.
And you lost a lot of money on Soul Calibur.
Yeah, and
Tetris Attack was your chosen retaliatory game, right?
It has, and I can beat him at it.
You can?
Because he has what he calls old man hands, because Shu's even older than me, and his hands cramp up, he gets all worried, and as he gets older, he gets worse at this game.
What? Is he still here? We should get him down here to defend that.
He gets all worried.
No, need some hand comparison.
He invented the old man hands thing. I did not come up with that. It's his invention. Seriously, you can ask him.
He gets some of that Asper cream first. He rubs it all over his joints. He's like, oh, I gotta get ready.
What else am I playing? Remember, I mentioned I was going to play Mortal Kombat Armageddon for Wii. I was reviewing it, and I did review it, and I was oddly hopeful, even though, as it turns out, it's not so good.
What did you end up giving it? Because Milky gave it a 6.5.
Yeah, right? That was a little bit of a gift. I gave it a 5, and that's the same score I gave the PS2 and Xbox version, because even though the Wiimote special moves actually work, and they're fun. I was surprised at how well it works. You make these motions, you make a fireball motion, or you make a back forward motion, and you throw the fireballs, you do the special move, and it actually does work. And wow, this is kind of fun. It does work. It makes the game better. But they mapped the regular attacks to the D-pad, which was the worst idea ever. It's unwieldy, unplayable. You're trying to do combos by pressing the Wii D-pad.
So you're moving with the nunchuck.
You're moving with the nunchuck. You're doing special attacks by waving the Wiimote around
and hitting the D-pad.
And then you're hitting left, right, up, down, up, down.
So it's mapping
blocking,
what was previously the 4 face buttons to the D-pad.
And that D-pad sucks. I don't know if you really it's not easy to use, and it's really hard to press different directions in succession to do a combo. So basically regular attacks become worthless in that mode. So you almost, if you're going to play this game, you're going to want to play it with a GameCube controller or a classic controller, just because the special attack. I mean, or just use special attacks. So. And it doesn't have online play, which other versions had, and that's kind of lame. Because we can do online play, obviously. Mario Strikers has it. It's coming out. So, I mean, if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, yeah, you'll still get, the 50 characters and all that stuff and the different modes. But in terms of a serious fighting game, not so much. And in terms of Wii functionality, it's sad because I think they did come up with a good plan for the special attacks, but they didn't come up with a good plan for the regular attacks.
Not going to be included in our fighters weekends or Fighter Mondays?
Probably not, sadly. What else have I been playing? Playing more Calling All Cars. I still really love it. It's super fun. If you haven't played it, you should try it out. And I got my Warhawk beta. I was on the second batch. I got mine late last week, and I'd heard people like you saying that the Warhawks are really hard to control, so I was prepared, okay, this is going to be really hard. I need to learn to do Warhawks.
I wonder if you were going to say exactly what I was going to say.
And I started playing it. I'm like, wow, this is really complex and hard.
He's preparing his middle finger.
All right. So I turned it on. I made my own game so I could learn, because I don't want to be a fool. I don't want people shooting me down as I crash into things. And so I started playing with the regular controls, and this is really hard. Switch over to motion controls. All makes sense.
What? Are you kidding?
2 minutes later, I'm flying through the air, doing loops, doing everything I want to do. Motion controls with Warhawks.
I think with
completely intuitive.
It's like with MotorStorm, I just can't comprehend it. I put it on motion control, and I was like, so how do I move?
It took me 2 minutes with motion control, and I didn't even look at what does what. I was like, okay, I just gotta figure this out, and it clicked.
Okay, so how do you move?
It clicked.
How do you move with motion control? How do you move forwards?
Well, there's a boost button to make you go fast, but you'll just move.
See, when I was doing it, I wasn't just moving. I was just hovering and getting my ass handed to me.
Well, you were in hover mode. There's 2 modes. See, that's the other kicker is you have to switch between
There are 2 modes.
Hover mode and flight mode.
Right.
Okay.
But give it another shot.
And
a bunch of us are going to be playing this weekend. So
okay. Well, I've been playing a lot at night, and I've been playing a lot of it. I mean, there's I like the 2 different kinds of Warhawks. I actually quite like the slower one, the more helicopter-like one with the 2 fans in the window.
That's what I was.
It looks like kind of a really stylized, modern interpretation of some old Nazi experimental Luftwaffe plane. So it looks like one of those sort of as things were becoming jets in the 40s. But it's got these big fans in the wings, and it's black, and it moves a lot slower, but it's a lot more maneuverable.
All right, so I've dogged on the art style of the game before. I will say that I agree. I think the Warhawks do look really cool in that game. I do think the Warhawks look really cool in that game.
The maps are fantastic.
I think the maps are very creative. Actually, I was surprised.
The one that Mark was talking about a few weeks ago, where there's all the
fortresses,
with the spires coming up through the clouds. I think it's really imaginative.
From what I've played, I'm going to play more, but I think it feels new and fresh and fun, and I'm into it. Yeah.
The only thing I agree, the maps are cool. The only thing the maps might have against them is size versus number of players, balance stuff. You have to really care. That's a really hard balance issue.
You pick your game type, and it scales the maps differently for that.
Right.
But
I got into a really long zones game, the one where you're controlling territory, and it had a lot of players in it, and it was really good fun. And it's there wasn't a lot of team coordination, but there was a lot of stuff where it became very apparent just looking at the map at what the sort of hive mind of your team was doing, because you are just chasing capture points to make the areas swell. You have to get more people near the flag, and your area you control gets bigger. And people were just naturally cooperating, which says to me that it's really well designed. If everyone without voice chat knows what everyone is trying to do, it's like, okay, now we need to go here, and a bunch of guys would get in the gun emplacements and defend something, and then a bunch of guys would surge forward. And
I'm surprised more people don't have headsets, because you think if you're in the beta, you're probably a hardcore player, and you might have a SOCOM headset lying around. I don't know, but you have a headset, right?
Yeah.
You know what? We need to get Sean into this game and have him do a real comparison between that and Battlefield.
I think it's very different from Battlefield.
It's a pretty unfair comparison. They're not really.
The kind of game type that you're talking about is exactly what Battlefield.
It's not on the same scale, though.
No, I think it's very.
How is it not on the same scale?
I think it's a lot more. I don't know.
I think it's almost more arcadey.
Yeah, very arcadey.
That's what I came away with is the physics and stuff are kind of arcadey. You can slam into mountains and it doesn't hurt you. You can jump around. It's arcadey.
I know Battlefield is kind of arcadey, but I still think even that is more.
How about console modern combat?
Yeah, although
I mean, that's been my comparison.
you keep bringing this up, but I think you're trying to disparage the game, be like, oh, you're just like a derivative, but it really isn't. To me,
that's not disparaging. Battlefield is totally respected.
Darn it, whenever we bring up war hockey, you're like shitting all over it.
That is bull, dude. That is absolute bull. The only thing that I shit on is the fact that it doesn't live up to my expectation, and that's my problem. I get that.
You should try it again because it's a lot.
It doesn't live up to my expectation of what I wanted out of Warhawk.
Your expectations are mired in 1995, and no one cares about that anymore. Like Warhawk 1, who cares? I never even played Warhawk 1. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, you know what? Apparently, it was a lot worse than I remember.
There you go.
Yeah.
According to John,
it's way worse than you remember.
Warhawk in the past because it was good at the time, but if you go back, it'll just ruin it for you.
So if you think it's disparaging, then you haven't followed me and the fact that I actually really like Battlefield games. So me making a comparison to Battlefield is actually a compliment.
No, but your comparison seems to be, well, you're not as good as Modern Combat every time.
No, it's not that it's not as good. I'm saying it's in the same vein.
Well, you haven't installed the beta yet, right?
Not since it switched over to the retail side. No, I have not.
Give it another shot.
You should give it another shot because I was really surprised at how much fun it was.
Yeah.
I mean, well, not surprised is the wrong word. I was pleasantly surprised by how much fun it was.
Yeah.
All right.
I've also I tried a little bit of the upcoming Bomberman for Xbox Live Arcade. It's awesome. It's what everybody wants. It's not Act Zero nonsense. It's a return to form.
How many players?
A lot. I'm not sure.
Is it up there like the Saturn version with whatever that was? 10,
I'm hoping the Saturn version.
I think it might be 8 instead of 10. I'm not sure.
Still, that's plenty.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But it's much more like the Saturn game. It's old school.
You guys can unleash
2D.
the hate now. I never played Bomberman.
Yeah, which is absurd.
Does it have the dinos?
Definitely should. It's so much fun.
I don't think it has the dinos,
Okay.
but you can customize your Bomberman, and it's what you want. It's classic. It's fun. It's simple. It's good time.
Can you still, once you're killed, scale the walls and toss bombs over?
I don't think, and I actually like that.
I loved that
I think they took
aspect
it
of
out
the
of
Saturn
this
version.
because some people hated it. I like that actually, but yeah,
because you used to be able to. You'd be out, but you could still influence the battle by shoving stuff into the.
But that's the kind of Xbox Live game that I think is awesome. In addition, I didn't get to play any The Darkness, but I watched a lot of people playing The Darkness.
I have too.
Oh, it looks so good, doesn't it?
It looks very pretty, but I gotta say, it looks a little frustrating. More so than I expected, but it's very pretty.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to
It's
trying it out.
like in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you kidding me? After watching Matt and Andrew play that, I am dying to play that game because I was a huge Riddick fan. I mean, I don't know about you guys.
It's a lot like Riddick. So,
Hey, that can't hurt.
I'm
really looking forward to play the remake because I never got around to Riddick the first time around. So at this point, I was going to go back. Is it backwards compatible? I don't think so.
No, that's one of the things as well.
Right.
One of the
I'd say wait for
So at this point, I'm just waiting for the upgrade.
The last thing, I haven't actually played it yet, but we're finally getting it. I'm very excited for it, which is Persona 3 for PS2. I'm an old school Persona fan. I loved that whole series, and this one they added a dating game element, which I think is kind of cool. So we'll see what happens with that.
Wow.
That was a dating element.
Why not?
How's that going to work?
How you date people? I don't know.
So you haven't checked it out?
Checked it out.
All right,
I'll let you know.
Worked out high, didn't do it for you.
Fuck no. That game is a disaster.
I don't have a whole lot to.
Well, should I do mine before we bore everybody with Forza 2?
Yeah, and then I can drop in some SimCity Societies.
Okay.
Then we can bore them with. Yeah, we can do the SimCity Societies thing first because people are going batshit crazy over that now. And I was down with Jeff Green and Ryan Scott to check out the game when they were showing it for their cover story. And I mean,
is that cover story out?
Yeah, that cover story. That cover story is out this week, and we have a fresh preview with some new screens up. And yeah, I mean, I could see why the SimCity fans are tripping on it because I was looking at it going, "Wow, this is a really bizarre game."
It's not made by Maxis.
It's not made. Well, first of all, Maxis. I think that word's gone. I really think that word's gone because EA. I mean,
EA did its whole sort of absorbing all the studios, but Maxis was one of the few brands that survived of the outside studios.
They're putting Maxis on Spore. That name is on Spore.
But cool. Maxis increasingly seems to be synonymous with Will Wright and nothing else now.
Right.
I think the thing with SimCity is, and this is something that they reiterated to us over and over, is that they looked at SimCity 4 as like a high water point for how in-depth and detailed and micromanagement they could get with a city planning sim. And at this point, they're looking at it as, you know what, we did that, and where the technology is today, there's not that much we can do to make another iteration of that would be compelling reason to go get it. And if you look out there, the community, like Simtropolis and the other big fan sites, those guys have gone into that engine and they've tweaked it and added all sorts of functionality to it and improved on pathfinding and done everything that the players want, such that it would be really hard to create something that those fans would be excited about. I mean, like, the things they would be excited about is little stuff like if you added diagonal streets. That's not enough to build a new game around, right? So the approach they came at it with was let's take SimCity and see what we could do with it. And this definitely adds a lot of the Sims flavor. And I mean, the whole idea here, I mean, you can sum this thing up from watching it, and you'll see some videos in a couple weeks that we took down there that Ryan's putting together into like a special. It's like a big like social engineering experiment. So if you want to create like some crazy dystopian society, you can do that. If you want to create, crazy everybody nice and happy pilled and being nice to each other, Candyland sort of world, you can do that. And it's all about like how you build. It's much more godlike. Where SimCity was like you were a city planner and you were just tweaking things as they were going. Here you're much more godlike. You're in control. You're placing buildings. You're not zoning stuff anymore, and you're really watching how your decisions in what you do, like if you lay like a Ministry of Thought Police or something like that, then you start to really push things.
They turned it into Populous.
Ooh, I hadn't thought about that comparison. It is sort of populist-ish, isn't it?
The God stuff with affecting the environment and the controlling the people.
Is it more about like social scenarios and like playing through scenarios more? Like
it is scenario driven. Right. That is a big change for this because they still.
I'm sure there's still like
sandboxy.
I'm sure there's still like a free build mode.
There's a free build mode. There will be. Yeah, there will be a free build mode. And I think the weird thing is going to be when you start trying. There's 6 social energies in the game, and the weird thing is going to be when you try to build. If someone approaches it from the old traditional standpoint of I'm going to get everything in balance, because you really can't balance everything. I mean, there's no way you're going to have like guys in black trench coats trying to go out and enforce your totalitarian dictatorship in Happy Tree Frog Land. It just doesn't really.
It'd be like Syndicate inside theme park.
It's cool when you do it for a minute. Like we actually watched as they like dropped like this Ministry of Thought Police in, and it recruited some citizens, and they like came out as like the enforcer dudes and went and found like the jugglers and the mimes that were walking on the streets and arrested them and drug them back to like the gulags.
The developer, I mean,
I know, but Andrew's like, wow.
But the developer was like the Caesar developer. They haven't turned it like a war game. There's no war in it, is there?
Caesar 4 wasn't totally well received from what I remember.
Well, I think Caesar 4 was like really well received in the beginning of what the game was doing, and then as it started to try and add RTS elements, people were like, "Why did you do this?"
So they're not turning SimCity into an RTS.
Yeah, no, they're definitely not turning it into an RTS.
That's what I wanted to make sure.
No, definitely not turning it into an RTS. They're very much in embracing this whole idea of
apart from the mime arresting mechanic.
I'm telling you,
apart from the mime rushes,
that never gets old.
That'd be awesome. I'd rush you with mimes.
Watching dudes in black trench coats spill out of the Thought Police building and go hunting down the mimes and clowns.
It's a PC only product though, right? It's not for consoles.
No, it'll definitely be PC only. The graphics are pretty high end PC, and the sight lines are pretty long, and they're doing a lot. They're definitely putting a lot of work into it. It's just obviously the SimCity crowd that wanted the next iteration of SimCity is going to have to take a step back and say, well, either this is what I wanted, or that's fine, I'll hold out for SimCity. This is not SimCity 5.
I don't know if I've met the SimCity crowd. Where do they hang out? The library?
I don't know.
Downstairs at the library.
Downstairs at the library, right.
Checking.
They're in there in between the D&D
So what have you actually been playing?
Oh my god, dude, I cannot turn off Forza 2.
Oh, yeah, I heard you guys talking about it earlier. Apparently, John doesn't like your friends. They pushed him off the road. He doesn't.
They did. They ran me off the road.
Doesn't want to play with you anymore.
Oh. Yeah. Fuckers.
Dude, I think that was someone who came into a room.
It wasn't anyone I know.
Wasn't anyone I know.
None of my friends would do anything like that, John.
I don't think any of those guys we were racing with a great crew. We had Y2 Kevin there, we had Iojubi in there, we had who else was in there with us?
And then the cocksucker that ran me off the road twice.
As I was explaining, John, rubbing is racing, and like it's all about like if I was playing Motorstorm, like that guy pushed me off, I'm not going to play anymore. I mean, come on, dude, it's a racing game.
But in Motorstorm, the rubber banding is so extreme that you catch up 5 seconds later.
This is true.
In Forza, once you're out, you're out. You might as well just stop.
So is the point just to run everyone off rather than actually race?
No. Do we race? Well, I'm serious. You come back, and especially like this weekend, I'm sure Che will be online. You can get together with us. Our races have been so intense, and yeah, there have been some huge wrecks. We've been talking about this, all over, and the big deal is that it is a really intense sim, and we all like to drive fast, and none of us are race drivers, so there are going to be accidents. I mean, the bottom line is that if we're all pushing up...
I don't mind accidents, air quotes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So does it ruin it unless everyone takes it seriously?
Well,
if you've got one dick, does it ruin the race?
Yes. If you have one dick, it will totally ruin the race.
You have to,
you have to kind of role play Forza 2.
Okay.
You are a racing driver.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're wearing gloves, it's probably better.
So you can grip the controller.
Man, I tell you though, I'm so intensely into it. I'm like, I'm a car head anyway. I mean, gearhead. So
are you working on some decals for your car?
No, that is way out of my league. That is so far out of my league.
Impressive work
Shocking stuff.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
A lot of stuff.
Can you download it online? So you can download other people's shit.
If they offer it to be available,
like on the marketplace,
and people can also create something and then gift it to you as well, so they can make a car.
So I have like the Super Mario Brothers car that Io gifted me, and like, dude, it is so pretty. It's it's amazing. It is so amazing. You can make like that perfect Mario face and all the details that are in the levels of a Mario game, all with just those decals. It's totally, and the stuff
it's a lot of work.
The stuff Modus has done. I posted it on my blog. The stuff Modus has done is just like batshit crazy.
I saw stuff that obviously took like hours and hours and hours because you take like different like little decals and layer them.
Why not? I've been looking at that stuff and wondering how people possibly had, from when the game came out, how they possibly found the time to do that.
Well, they're the same people who played like 100 Halo matches the first day or whatever. Like they find
these people don't have jobs.
They're college kids, right?
Pretty much.
See, there you go.
But college kids don't have next gen consoles.
There's the catch-22.
I don't know, dude. You got to race with us this weekend. That's all I'm saying. The crew I've been rolling with, big ups to them because we have been having a blast every night playing the game. I couldn't be happier.
If Dirt was out retail, though, would you be playing that instead?
You know what? I thought I would have, but no.
I'm the same. Like last week or the week before, I was talking about it, and I wondered if I liked Dirt more. Over time, no, I like Forza more.
I realized that the PS3 version of Dirt got pushed back to like September. That's why no one's talking about that.
Oh wow!
One of the dudes we roll with, Jotes, he like is consistently in the top 5 or 10 of the leaderboards. He gifted me a Skyline that's like similar to his, and we were racing last night, and I was like, it was so amazing to be like in the zone, running those lines, and finally he looks back. We're like on the 3rd lap of a 6th lap race. He looks back in the mirror and sees me still back there, and he's like, "Dude, you're gonna have to give me that car back."
Oh,
he's like, you can't be running that close.
And one of the things I found interesting that when you guys are talking about outside of my cube was that neither of you are using the wheel.
Nope.
Well, and the online conversations are pretty much dead on that.
Damian, who's probably the biggest racing fan around here, he kind of poo-pooed the wheel for Forza 2. He says,
hasn't everyone?
Good.
I shit on it. I mean,
and it's like what they. I mean, I guess they dropped it $20. It's like $129 now. I think.
I mean, people aren't just not using it; they are like deriding the wheel during the if the conversation in game turns to hey, have you tried the wheel? Everyone's just like, don't waste your money on that shit. Yeah,
that's a problem.
Big problem.
So do you think maybe it's because maybe they even tuned the...
No, I think it's because the people that made the wheel and the people that made Forza weren't speaking to each other at the time.
That might be a problem. That could be a little bit of a problem.
The wheel's been out for a while, hasn't it?
It may be good. It's probably good for PGR4.
So
let's hope so.
It doesn't matter because the good side of this, like we've talked about a bunch, is how well tuned this game is to playing it with the controller. You can really play the game with the controller, which makes all the difference in the world.
Speaking of Xbox 360 game, anybody playing some Shadowrun this week? Get him crickets?
No.
Chirping?
Demo came out yesterday.
Nick loves it.
Nick loves it.
I'm seeing a lot of love for the game.
Yeah, a lot of people are
just pissed about the price. People are pissed about the price. The maps, although I saw someone noticed in the credits, most of the maps were outsourced and weren't done internally.
So what are these people doing for 4 years?
I have no idea. I get as a little bit of confidence to people that are enjoying the game that doesn't eliminate the chance of downloadable content. It was all outsourced anyway.
It seems that like CS fans, Counter-Strike fans do really like this game and they understand it. It's very competitive. It's like, but I think the general Halo fans are like, well, this isn't like Halo.
This sounds like me like 8 months ago. No, seriously. I mean, despite the fact that I took heat for like how the whole Mitch interview went, I supported the game and said, hey, after I played it a lot, that it's really well balanced, and if you like Counter-Strike like I did, that you'll really like it. And I still think
people are willing to give it a chance. It's just the price is totally.
I don't need to dig into it right now because that game. Here's what's going to happen with that game. That game is going to form a very hardcore crowd of people who play it all the time and are playing it from. They're going to be playing it now, and they're going to play it in a month, and they're probably still going to be playing it in 6 months. So at any time when I want to,
it'll be this impenetrable.
Yeah. So if you're not playing it right now, you might as well not play the game.
Gameplay is so deep. They're going to have these like strategies, like I teleport over here and make a tree, and blah, blah, blah. And you're going to walk and be like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Dude, they already do. I would bet you they already.
Oh yeah.
Do. So it doesn't matter. This is like that conversation we had about what was that, like 3 weeks ago? We talked about how hard it is to break into the online circle. This is a game that I'm just going to.
It's a game built for it.
It is. It is really. If you look at like the depth of everything they built and the balance, that was what they were going for.
Very intricate.
So I have to bring, like last week I said that the Forza 2 achievements were real punishments. Turns out it was me that was being punished by the Xbox 360 because
in a really weird situation.
I posted a blog about it and no one had come across this before, and I ended up talking to the guy that was fixing my other broken Xbox who told me that it was probably a game update that balked it. And looking back through it, I'm fairly certain the CNC 3 sort of update that it does when you first put the game in, that was the last time that my 360 acknowledged any game that was put in it, and it was like 3 weeks ago. So I did the when you go to the memory blade and you do the XX buttons, XX thing, and it clears everything, and it clears all the game updates out. As soon as I did that, the game started appearing on my profile again. But it meant that all the Forza 2 play that I'd had, there were no achievements, no gamer score, nothing. So
worse yet. So do you have to start all the way over again?
Yeah.
Whoa. And worse than that, you lost the Union Jack Mini.
Yeah, I had a just beautifully, like, the whole thing it looked like it had this sort of ragged Union Jack draped over the whole thing, and I had to lose it.
So are you going to start over?
I did, but then I got sucked into this game with his, like, ram you off the road buddies. Anyway,
great way to stake in it.
Matchstick on the boards said, hey, something must be wrong. He actually spotted it really early, and then he also told me, because last week we couldn't remember the name of the guy in Dirt, and I thought it sounded like Pastrami. Well, it does. His name is Travis Pastrana. Pastrana.
Isn't he a BMX racer?
He was a motocross rider.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, he's the guy in Dirt. Anyway, so now I unclogged my 360. So
I
this
thought
one
doesn't have to go into like.
It's a software fault, and if you have CNC, be careful with that update because it might balk things.
Which is odd because I played CNC 3, so I have that update, and it didn't do that to me.
There's always a niche of people that have some random problem every time there's an update.
Oh god, like the whole thread about don't put this update red time to my 360.
As soon as the Guitar Hero 2 one came, there was a rash of people that had red rings, and it was roll the dice, I guess.
So I've been playing Forza with you and then catching up on my profile stuff. I played a lot of Warhawk. And then last night I downloaded Pac-Man Championship Edition.
I need to get that.
And you seem to love it.
It is so, Mark made a very good point a while ago that, with downloadable content, it's a very easy comparison to say, if something is really good, to say, oh, it's up there with Geometry Wars in terms of significance. I think this is.
What?
Not just because it's... it looks a bit like Geometry Wars, which is kind of unique.
Well, the visual style is cool.
It's very Geometry Wars.
Much cooler than I expected.
But the way Geometry Wars makes you unable to put it down,
right?
Pac-Man has that because it's not straight Pac-Man. It's a proper sequel, but they've really rethought the mechanic.
We all grew up with Pac-Man, so we appreciate the base gameplay. I think whatever younger kids would be like, I don't know.
But the thing with this, there's the potential for millions of people to play this because I think anyone that grew up around Pac-Man, played Pac-Man once or twice, is going to see this because what they didn't fuck with was Pac-Man and the ghosts. They're still iconic, and what they did is they changed the music, they changed the maps. It has the evolving map, which it throbs in time with the music, and as it's beating with the drums and the music, pieces of the map will disappear and then reappear as a different shape. But the really cool mechanic is it isn't a full map of dots. It splits. It's done widescreen, so it's different orientation from previous Pac-Man, and it's split down the middle. The ghosts spawn in the middle, and it'll run dots in a. It's not random. I think it's a predetermined pattern on each side, and there'll be a set number of power pills. And once you clear all the dots on one side, a piece of fruit appears, and when you eat the fruit, it respawns the dots, and that's how you get the power pills back. And at the same time, everything is driven towards score. So you have a time limit in order to get the maximum number of points. That's how you place on the leaderboard. And the way to get the most points is you chain power pills now. So you make them blue, you eat them, and then you have to clear the dots, get the fruit, create more power pills, and get the power pill in time to chain onto the
crazy ghost. It's just crazy. It's too much complex.
Right. In classic Pac-Man,
how is that complicated?
Too much. Can't handle it.
Part of it, like in classic Pac-Man, the most points you could get for a ghost was 1,600. Even after the fourth one, you would only get 600. But now,
that's you get the fourth ghost,
you can chain
and then in the second chain you get 3,200 for the next ghost, and then you're so it's exponential.
That's the problem. It's still.
Oh my god, my
you need
mind
people to get over the name that it's Pac-Man. Like you're just
Your
going to see.
mind is exploded by squaring numbers.
Well, okay. Another feature I heard about is there's a mode where you can like pre-turn and you like turn before the turn and you go faster than usual. Have you done this?
Well, the original Pac-Man did that, right?
Pac-Man always went faster around corners than the ghost, but I hear there's like a thing now where you're like even more beyond that. I haven't played it yet.
That sounds like some hardcore shit. I didn't try that. I was just playing it.
Do you have to hit the E-brake?
No, but I don't know. But
It was I was playing it and I put it on because I read the New York Times article yesterday because it's the original Pac-Man guy.
Toru Iwatani.
So I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll check it out, see what it is. It's 800 points, so it's $10.
I think it's too high.
That's
probably a little high.
As stoked as I'm on this game, there are already 2 different Pac-Man games available on Xbox Live Arcade for 500 points. And like this one should also be 500 points.
So I downloaded it and put it on thinking, okay, I'll check out the different modes. And like 2 hours later, I'm like, just like utterly
long.
like the way that you know the way that time just disappears with Geometry Wars,
right?
It was like that. And then I was looking through the leaderboards and I saw that like Chris Johnston, he was on my friend's leaderboard. I could see what his score was, and a couple of the guys here had played it. I'm like, well, I at least want to try and break 100,000 points in the 5-minute mode, and then you just start to obsess on score goals the way that you do in Geometry Wars, and it's just. Like, if you die, like, you get to one of those points where you're getting basically the same score over and over and over, so you know that there's a speed that it gets up to that you're not able, and it's like, I've got to crack that. And as soon as you do, you get into that sort of, okay, well, now I can cruise at this level for a while.
I think it's too bad that it's named Pac-Man, though, because people aren't going to give it a chance because of that.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to be totally word of mouth.
I think a lot of people are going to.
I think our generation will give it a chance because it's named Pac-Man.
But we won't.
My wife.
Who cares about you fucking kids?
I would.
You call,
but everyone else, they're just going to see Pac-Man Champion Edition and like, what the hell?
I heard the story the one time that you referred to old Nintendo and you meant N64. I heard that story about you.
Oh my god!
I heard that story about you like 7 years ago, and I was like, that fucking brat. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand shit. You know where the games came from. Kids, you have it all.
Then again, yeah. My middle school years were Pokemon.
Paging someone on the forums to come up with that picture of baby Patrick. You know the one I'm thinking of?
Don't tempt them.
Oh, you know the one I'm thinking of.
I've known Zip Davis way too fucking long.
So I bet this is definitely one of the top download games on 360 very quickly.
Definitely got positive
because there's people like my wife was like, oh, there's a new Pac-Man, and she was watching it and she's like, oh, I might want to play this. And I think there's good, and she doesn't play games.
Right.
She'll play Wii Sports every now and then with us, and that's pretty much it. But it's like it's really tapping into that. Anyone that's familiar with it, you can kind of get it, and you can play it at different levels. And it has like 3-4 different modes.
I think it's 5. Yeah, there's a bunch. They're all variations on like time
attacks and challenges and stuff, but it's very cool.
But I do hope, though, the best Pac-Man game that a lot of people didn't play was Pac-Man Versus for GameCube was amazing. And I really hope that Nintendo brings that to either DS or Wii, because that's a game where you also play as the ghost. One person's Pac-Man, everybody else is the ghost. It's fucking brilliant.
You actually hooked it up with all the connectivity.
Yeah, it's fucking brilliant.
And it works.
But
I remember that now.
Was it the new
that was
3D
big announcement
cartoon
5 years
Pac-Man,
ago?
or was it iconic spritey Pac-Man?
It was 3D, but it was based on,
you had to play it with the
GBAs.
GBAs, right?
It was the basic maze, but it was the GBA.
The multiplayer aspect, the fact that the 3 ghosts would like work together to try to get Pac-Man, and they had limited viewpoints. I mean, that would be
awesome
cool.
Online.
Yeah,
now that we have that established.
Nintendo should fucking do that shit.
Nice.
All right,
pretty good recommendation. We got a bunch of other recommendations from the message boards, which we'll be hooking up in just a minute. John, you've got some stuff to take us into that segment, and then we'll head right from there into 4-minute warning. So stick around. We'll be right back with all of your content.
You are listening to One Up Yours on the One Up Radio Network.
Check it. This is the sound of us walking across your mom's ass.
GFW Radio. Listen to our podcast. Yo, yo. GFWradio.oneup.com. Podcast.oneup.com. Get it at the iTunes Music Store every Tuesday.
All right, John, things are starting to settle down on those message boards some, and these guys are putting together some good threads. What'd you read this week?
A lot of people made me laugh.
That's good.
In a good way.
That's a good start, right?
Not in a bad way.
Not at them, with them. Yeah.
So Mike Lenark5, who was very pleased that we mentioned him, and also told me that the pronunciation of his name is correct, and it's of Czech descent.
Oh, very nice.
There you go.
He has the favorite game quotes thread, which continues on from last week.
That was a good thread.
And it continues to get better, starting with Giggity, who has my favorite so far, which is a quote from Pokemon Trotze. Give me 3 coins to play with my balls for 2 minutes.
Those Pokemon. Nice. Those Pokemon.
That is dirty.
I would like to just say
Pokemon
this.
trainer's a little dirtier than you think.
Giggity is an example of someone who fully gets the show.
Yeah, wow.
Sadly. I love that. Mr. Toffee, we'll see if we can do this, see if we can guess which. You might not know, it might be a bit before your time.
Ooh.
You are just a bunch of fool.
You are just a bunch of fool. Wow, okay.
It's from a game in 1994.
What genre? A brawler?
It's a fighter.
Fighter.
And 1994 was in the title.
King of Fighters 94.
Yes, it was. Very good.
Who said it? Do we know?
Robert.
Oh, okay.
I didn't write any of them down, but Tahoya has lots of Alpha Centauri quotes. They were very
Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri?
Sid Meier.
You know what? It did have a lot of dialogue in it.
A lot of dialogue, yeah.
Kind of stuff you also kind of probably clicked past
game,
pretty quickly.
I remember that game.
Who read the quotes?
Not so popular. People thought it was kind of boring.
No.
Oh, it scored really well.
I heard that game
It scored really well, but it didn't stick around.
I heard that was the game where like 21 windows would pop up on your screen. It's like...
No, dude. I think you're thinking of Masters of Orion 3.
Maybe that's not...
You're thinking of Masters of Orion 3, which did not score well, was unpopular, and was worse than like Expirel.
Those boring...
I wasn't very scored well, but it didn't stick around very long.
Space development sims? That's a boring joke.
I think you're going to get an argument from the Alpha Centauri crowd, because there's a big group of fans.
Well, maybe niche,
that crowd, they're at the old folks' home, all right?
Not in the library? Alpha Centauris are at the old
They're in the
folks'
basement.
home?
They're upstairs in the library.
Well, it's futuristic. There gotta be at least a floor above.
Smelly Socks had this quote. You might not get this one. Bite my crunchy brown ass.
Whoa. What's that from?
To the point.
That's from Time Splitter's Future Perfect, and it was said by the Gingerbread Man.
That makes me want to play that game.
Sweet.
Yeah. Silktail. You get the ladder and put it in your pocket. Ouch. Remember that? It's from Space Quest 3.
Ooh.
Roger Wilco.
I didn't play.
Oh, they were funny.
Oh, those are great games. Even I played those.
I didn't play them.
They're good.
So that continues. Please continue to post in it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we might steal a bunch of them and put them in a feature at some point, because I think it's like 10, 11 pages deep by now, and there's some kind of crisis going on.
We're getting like a little weird feedback loop. You know what I hear? We're like trying to sort what that was out.
Delatu started a thread that is going to get huge, starting with Halo's library is not that bad.
Copy paste.
Yeah, a lot of people claimed that they enjoyed it in co-op. I don't know. I never tried it in co-op.
Well, yeah, in co-op, it's
fully a blast.
You can
People
deal
said
with it a
you
whole
could
lot
just
better.
experiment with weapons and you could just mow down the flood. But that got pretty.
I actually sort of agree. In co-op, it is a lot of fun. We play the co-op, especially because you get like one dude on the shotgun, and then anybody can cover you with like rocket launcher and or jump into like assault rifle. Yeah, there's different tactics you can use there.
My theory, which is anything is fun in co-op.
Yeah,
that's a good theory.
Good point.
That's a very good theory.
It is. Everything's fun in co-op.
So, have any of you guys ever played around with Twitter? It's like it's like blogging, but it's microblogging, where it's like what I'm doing right now.
It's like off your, do it off your phone usually,
right? You can do it from your phone. You can do it from anything, but it's like a mini version of blogging, and you just post things to a profile, and it spits things out as a feed, and you can get it. And it's like what I'm doing right now, and you can subscribe, and it's just giving a little snapshot of what's going on in your life.
I have actually checked it out and was like, wow, this is the most mundane thing I've ever read. Someone just told me they're going.
You update it yourself, like
right, and it just updates, and people subscribe.
I'm going to the grocery store now. I'm sitting down to eat
life
dinner.
is that interesting?
Well, I think it's collectively.
Oh, okay.
So someone took W, 3 words. has a thread that is now 156 pages
Whoa,
deep.
what he's doing right now.
No, it's actually taking the...
He's just pasting his Twitter profile.
It's like taking the Twitter idea and having everyone just posting, like, what game are you playing today? So every day people are just like, it's like everyone's just done like a sentence on what they were playing or what they were doing today.
And then the conversation.
And it's huge. And like, it's interesting to see that, you know, people tend to cluster around a game, and when they read something in this thread, it influences them, and you can see the knock-on effect. That's
interesting.
Little social experiment there.
Like when I was playing Roston 3 the other week, I wonder, am I the only person in the world playing Roston 3 at 3 in the morning? Probably. Anyway.
If you were on Twitter or on this board, you would know.
How long did you dwell on that thought?
Until I beat the game.
So before we move into 4-minute warning, there is a Beige started a thread.
Beige.
New intro phrases for Garnet.
Oh, there were some good ones.
You noticed that today it was another gambling reference. I'm starting to get a little concerned about Garnet going down the casino gambling.
I hear he's excited about the Cache Creek Casino expanding here in the Bay Area. It is.
So there are some suggestions that people would like you to use. So there were a lot, and I just wrote down a bunch that you might want to consider.
Several very good ones. I say don't say them now because you should save them because they're really good.
Oh, really? We shouldn't know highlights?
Save the really good ones.
Save the really good ones.
So we'll save the really good ones. Okay, so... well, that implies that any I read out aren't very good.
If we're saving the really good ones, we're not going to have to worry about needing a whole lot of paper.
Maybe we should tell people to go to the thread and add more.
Exactly,
we're looking for more.
New intro phrases for Garnet. It's very popular, so you go and check them out.
Yeah. And he may use some.
Yeah, may. Notice which one I used today. Oh, that's right, I didn't.
They were good ones, dude. You could have used them.
That was unnecessarily harsh.
What's his name? I don't know how you pronounce it.
Although the rap we might lay down. The rap.
No.
What? No. The rap is.
If we would do the rap right now, we could maybe.
Garnet, I'm afraid that your flow is not quite ready for national radio.
There's no hustle to your flow.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong.
You want to do it?
I think you're. What do you think?
You want to do it?
Garnet, you and I, we are the big hip hop fans here, but I don't think you're ready. All right.
Okay.
I don't want to cry at 6.
I don't think you'll be crying. I think I'll be busting it, and you'll be like, "Damn,
your flow is fresh.
Damn."
No.
Okay, well, go to the boards, a separate thread if you want Garnet to rap. It could be arranged.
If we get X amount
Maybe
of
I'll
responses.
rap with you.
Dude, and you could beatbox.
Actually, Sean Elliott can really rap. We should get him to rap. Everybody's rap. Anyway.
Do you have some kind of, like, cold?
No,
That's a bizarre cough.
Moving right along.
This is not only the fully dude podcast, it is the fully white dude podcast.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Says the shaved-headed blonde dude.
What was that game you were playing at 3 a.m. in the morning again?
4-minute warning. Here we come.
All right, 4-minute warning time. And by the way, it's nice that you did get Beige in there because he's not in the 4-minute warning.
No?
Nope. Not to be mean to Beige or anything, but like, you know what? Sometimes you just got to break the mold.
Yeah.
You got to step outside the boundaries.
Some other people a chance. Actually, if I were to have read any of the new Garnetisms, then there's a lot of new names there.
That having been said, there are some repeat offenders here, and I'm going to start off with one of them who's like submitted a bunch of good stuff, which is Pip King. Pip King has a thread about franchises, which is apparently a word that he coined by accident, and here's what he defined it as: video game franchises that have lost any sense of its own purpose and now exist primarily as fan service, repackaging gameplay and ideas from previous installments to trade on brand recognition and affection for fans only. So here we go, guys. What I want to know is what are the worst offenders, what series have successfully actually mixed it up, which have screwed it up, and what does this do to the audience appeal when they do turn into a franchise?
Worst offender?
Mega Man.
Castlevania.
No, Mega Man. Dude, Mega Man.
Yeah.
Mega Man, okay, Mega Man side-scrolling adventures are still good, like Mega Man the ZX coming out, I'm interested in, but anything involving like chips or cards or boards or bullshit or babies or cartoons,
Like,
no.
yeah, the first Battle Network, maybe.
Yeah.
But, like, Battle Network, what are we on? 16?
There was a Battle Network.
Blue, red, green, orange.
There was literally a Battle Network.
They've gone into satellite distribution.
No, wait, there was Battle Network 4.5 in Japan. It was like one between 4 and 5, okay?
They couldn't choose a color for that one, so they just decided to go in between.
The last great Mega Man game is Mega Man 8, okay? So other series, Castlevania, okay, there are too many Castlevanias, but they're all good.
But they are all the same.
They're all the same, but they're still good.
They're still good, all right?
But does that not imply that they are just for fans?
But it's a lot of fans.
Does making it again make it any better? Different?
No, you don't have anything to say about it because actually this one John's right about.
It's like it's Symphony of the Night again, only with a slightly different thing. Oh, it's somebody else whose name's spelled backwards.
It's still fun. It's still fun. Mega Man's not still fun.
Some of the Mega Man offshoots not good, not fun. Other series that are guilty of this. Let's think.
Pokemon.
Yeah. The Pokemons proper are very good. The Pokemon offshoots usually not so much. And
although Pokemon Trotse has my favorite game quote ever in it now.
Well, but how many times have we said that Diamond is exactly the same as all the other Pokemons
it's
as well?
refined. It's
Pokemon
fantastic.
proper isn't that different, but they're farther enough from each other that you're ready for it again.
Okay, I'm going to go out and say Tom Clancy, like as a brand. The Tom Clancy brand spread too thin,
Well,
I think.
I think it's spread too thin because also the games have gotten closer and closer together, particularly Graw 2 and Rainbow Six Vegas. The differentiators between those two franchises, because it used to be this is a squad and they're like soldiers that are going out and doing stuff, and then in Rainbow Six it's like wait. It's the same game again. Whereas before it was like one was very small squads in tight little environments.
Well, Rainbow Six used to be a hardcore game that
with a lot of strategy to it.
With a lot of you had to plan out your routes before you got into the game, and that was a lot of fucking fun. But that doesn't work on a console, and so that's been dropped.
But I think there are franchises where you can whore it out to the milk factory, and it's still okay. Mario and Final Fantasy are examples of this. There are currently 13 Final Fantasy titles in production, and most of them look pretty good, actually. They're the genre leader. Same with Mario.
Final Fantasy definitely came up in the thread, and I think that's a good example because what they pointed out is that the numerical iterations of it, the ones that are actually proper Final Fantasies, always seem to actually hit on that. But you cannot tell me that a lot of the offshoot ones haven't just been complete disasters. I know this man right here, Andrew Fister, was yelling and screaming and breaking controllers over Dirge.
Okay, Dirge was not a good game, but
that's the same thing. That right there is franchise material.
Yeah, but the lion's share of the Final Fantasy offshoots are good, and same with Mario. Like most Mario titles are good. Like Mario Kart's good. Mario Party, it's good for what it is. Like Mario, they're
sports games are all good.
Yeah, like those licensees, those publishers, they use the franchise.
Wait. Sports games are all good.
Mario Tennis,
most of them are generally good.
Yeah,
I think they were talking about the Mario
sports games.
Yeah.
Same
with Final Fantasy.
They're all generally good.
Yeah, Dirge of Cerberus wasn't that hot, but most of the offshoots are good. So I think those are franchises that, while hoard out, are handled.
But I think to his point, Dirge of Cerberus only would have got any attention at all because it had Final Fantasy in the name.
That is true.
Which is why I think Last Remnant is kind of ballsy in that.
You just did the Pro Street cover. What about Need for Speed?
Oh God, it's been very guilty of it.
Yeah.
I've been taters deep in Need for Speed all week, and you go back through that stuff, and there was Underground, then Underground 2 and Carbon were all very, very similar. And
freaking Tony Hawk,
Ridge Racer.
Tony Hawk Ridge Racer. Oh my God, Tony Hawk franchises all.
The question is though, do you care? Do you care that they're not different? No, do you care they're not different?
I gave up on Ridge Racer 4.
Those are series where you can miss 2 or 3 and come back and be like, oh, it's still the same.
I love it. Oh, Patrick, that was awesome. Really, so honest. Do you care?
All right.
Moving on from Ben 1842, and I like the way he termed this, which caught my eye as the thread title was FPS, the most innovative, stale genre. First-person shooters are at their core all very similar to play, but the smallest variations seem to give the entire genre staying power. For the most part, you just walk around until you find someone, and then you go for the headshot. While that hasn't changed much, the genre has. So here's my question to you guys. How stagnant are there? What about squad dynamics, narrative-driven games, episodic uses of engines, non-traditional uses of first-person shooter engines like RPGs or adventures, and how will first-person shooter games evolve?
I think the narrative focus, that's a change that Half-Life made, and that's the biggest change we've seen. I don't think episodic has any bearing at all. I don't think
people have dicked around with Melee. I mean, Riddick is probably the best example of that. They tried it with Dark Messiah. I don't think it worked very well.
I think narrative. I think the next big step is open world FPS, like an open world game.
Huxley.
Which is when's the last time we heard about Huxley?
Well, I mean, I think that was pretty much obvious when they came and showed it to us that they had bitten off a huge.
We haven't heard about Huxley for over a year now,
and they have. Let me tell you, I have no doubt that they still have hundreds of people laboring on it, and that's about how many they need to finish it one day.
I don't know.
What's the one with crossplay?
That's Huxley.
Oh, no. Oh, The Crossing.
Yeah.
The Crossing, which, man, I am sky high for that game. I am dying to see that game.
Dark
Messiah guy.
Yeah, and that was
from Arcane Studios. Well, this is a much different game that they're trying to do there. I mean, I really like the idea of a single-player game where you log in and play, and there are there's an opportunity. If you just want to play light, you can just jump in and play the opponents to someone else who's actually sitting down for a longer term and playing their single-player game.
Here's a question of that. You guys talked about Forza where it doesn't work unless everyone's playing along.
Right.
And that game is not going to work unless everyone's playing along.
Actually,
the moment you have one dick in that game is not fun anymore.
I disagree. The game is designed to have one person who's playing and everybody else being the dicks. That's the whole point. You drop in and are playing the dick.
If they're not playing their role, they're fucking up the game.
That's the whole point. Isn't everyone else the AI? They're role playing. So.
If you hop into that game and don't
explain to me how it works when one person is a dick, how the game is still fun.
What is the dick going to do? Because in that game, only
if you're just running around, jumping around,
they're not doing
the
what they're supposed to be doing.
You're not guarding your fucking post.
But they're not going to have any fun doing that because the fun of being a dick in a regular game is that you're screwing up somebody else.
Well, yeah, you're screwing up the guy playing the single player game.
You're not actively screwing it up. You're just screwing around. You're not. Anyway. How stale are shooters?
This does get me back to my point that Halo, as awesome as Halo is. Eventually, it's just like, minor changes to the FPS.
Halo gets the balance right. Well, that's the key. The key is that when Halo came...
Other people can get the balance right, too.
They haven't so far, though. Where's the game that's gotten
It's coming. Halo's king of the mountain right now, but 6 years from now, who knows, someone else might come in and make a better game.
I guess it's got it right now, though.
It's got it right now.
How stale are shooters to you, John?
There's not many that I've wanted to play. I mean, I think Crysis is doing some open world stuff, and it's all refinements on technology. The shooters end up being technology showcases. So you've got like a lot of stuff going on with physics, a lot of stuff going on with AI, a lot of stuff going on with graphics. But fundamentally, it's here I am with a gun. I've got to get from here to over there and not get killed on the way.
So it's become such a burgeoning genre that you've got so many entries that a bunch of them, guess what? They are just chaff. They're just junk. They're just overloading the marketplace.
The next big thing in FPS is control, and sadly the Wiimote, although it seems like it's going to be really awesome for FPS, is because there's no self-center, because it's not precise enough, it doesn't really work. But I think a game where you really are like pointing your gun and moving around, like it's more real, that is the future of FPS, but someone has to do it.
I'm interested. I mean, I know that everyone's kind of laughed at it, but the sort of the two realities in Haze. I'm kind of interested to see how they execute that. There's the sort of happy flowers and butterflies view through the visor, and then when the shit stops pumping into you, everything is all nasty.
Well, I think Haze is becoming more and more interesting. I think people are curious to see more.
It's
of that
Free
game.
Radical. Free Radical knows what they're doing. Time Splitters was a great series. Awesome multiplayer.
Well, and I've heard the story in Haze is like really.
As long as they get rid of that whole limp wrist thing, because that always drove me crazy.
In Time Splitters?
Yes.
Well, it's a really loose. Well, the GoldenEye guys. So.
I know. That's always I think the way the first-person shooters are going to evolve is the way the entire game industry is evolving, which is that the game will be more polished, more rounded, more mature, and that it'll be a compelling. If it's compelling, it doesn't matter whether it's first-person, third-person, whatever. It doesn't matter. All right, next one up. And so here's another one of our regular contributors. This is Red Swirl. And Red Swirl has a great thread going on overdone or underdone game mechanics. He says, this isn't really a pet peeve thread asking what flaws in games you hate seeing the most, but rather one that asks what game mechanics that used to be cool or do you think are often misused in games or used in too many of the wrong games or simply worn out their welcome. Inversely, what game mechanics do you think aren't being used enough in games? So, he cites things like slow-mo, physics engines, ragdolling, QTEs, that thing. So here's the question to you guys, to throw it open. What are the underdone and overdone mechanics? Of the underdone, how should they be improved on? And when is an overdone mechanic okay to use? In other words, how come sometimes overdone mechanics work and sometimes they don't?
I'm jumping in. QTEs overdone. They're done correctly in like God of War 2 when they're on boss battles and seem really epic, but when in regular gameplay, they replace what could be normal gameplay with QTEs. It's lazy.
It pissed me off in Resident Evil 4.
A little bit, yeah.
Because that stuff could have been done in gameplay. And it was cool because it made for, a great cutscene. But it wasn't very fun.
I think ragdolling's overdone, and I think the knock-on of ragdolling being overdone is that when things die, they lose their weight. And the worst offender of that is Gears of War. Because you have these big, hulking, 400-pound bad guys, and then when they drop to the floor, you can, breathe on them, and they're just like...
Oh, you know what? You know what you're going to be hip to then? In Brothers in Arms, they actually have the ragdolling system tied into the physics system so that they're actually working together, and they got rid of that problem. Right. And that was one of the things things that Randy Pitchford was showing me, and I was like, dude, that is a big difference. It finally gets rid of that.
About time.
It's about damn time.
If I drop a
Why do
fucking
physics
berserker,
disappear?
I want it to go down like a 500-pound creature. I don't want it to go down like a doll.
Yeah, you spent a year putting the Havoc's physics engine in and it disappears as soon as you kill
When
the
you
guy.
see the way it works in the new Brothers in Arms, you're going to be like, oh, everybody else uses Ragdoll. You better figure out how to make this work.
Ragdoll. Okay. And also, if you don't know what a QTE is, it's a quick time event. It's
Right.
buttons show up on screen. You just explain that.
Shenmue.
So Shenmue really made that popular, right?
Okay.
They coined the term.
A convention that is underused from the past that I think people should bring back. A Saturn game called Enemy Zero by Warp had some things where like saving was like a thing where like you had to concern yourself about, do I have enough energy left to save? You had a battery, so you can only save your game so many times. So it made you like, I mean, Resident Evil did it with like.
How is that any different than Resident Evil with the ribbon?
Right, with the ribbons. But it was more
because it's tied to your life.
It was more forgiving, and it could recharge a little bit over time. So it made you consider when you saved. And like most games, like I think the PC save state thing is really cheap. It makes games.
So you don't like quick save, quick load.
Leeches all challenge from games. Games aren't hard anymore. I think games need to be hard and like make you consider saving.
So
But
do you
it's
think,
a tough balance.
So, kind of related to that, do you think that regenerating health bars are overdone?
I thought it was smart for Halo because if you do it well with the difficulty level,
Yep.
if you make it to where you need to use it, and it's like it's part of the game, and like you don't want to abuse it,
Because resistance
there's a balance.
doesn't get good until that mechanic kicks in.
Yeah, and once it does, they nailed it. It's really disappointing at the beginning that you don't have it,
Yeah.
because once it does hit, they nailed the whole, like by breaking the bar into 4 segments, they really made it work
if
well.
you use that mechanic, you need to balance it correctly to make the game not too easy or too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
So, well, I mean, it sounds like from what we said, it doesn't matter whether the mechanic is overdone or underdone. It matters how it's implemented.
I still want to see more co-op.
More co-op, yeah. I think,
Everything is more fun.
still want to see more co-op.
and I think we're this year and next year, I think we're going to see a lot of Prince of Persia, running up walls, acrobatic type effects. I think we're going to see it in Assassin's Creed. I think there's going to be a bunch of stuff where it's like, okay, I get that now.
Well, so it's going to be like it's going to be like Prince of Persia. Assassin's Creed will hit. Everyone will
Look, the
copy
bottom line
it.
is you can tell when this shit is forced. We boil it down to the simplest point. Crates and barrels. Sometimes crates and barrels are totally forced.
And look at Uncharted. They just said this week that there'll be a bunch of barrels, but there will be no crates.
Well, another feature that games don't do
Fucking
it.
bullshit that you would say that.
They said that. There'll be a bunch of barrels. You can blow shit up.
Another feature that's underutilized is like real things in the background that you can interact with. Metal Gear Solid 2, there's tons of shit you could shoot, things falling over. Most games, they don't have the time or the assets to like spend time on the assets. But we see a game like Stranglehold where you're like, if you walk next to a table, you actually push it over, things fall over. You
are so right.
See, I was
That's a
gonna
big
say-
point.
notice these details, and those small details make a game seem next gen, and not very many games do that.
Whoa, that. He said that. That immediately clicked for me. That's a big
but
deal.
I care in Stranglehold because it affects the gameplay. It doesn't matter in Metal Gear.
No, but like it doesn't have to affect
Because I can melt the ice. I can melt the
no,
ice.
but like the attention to detail, what makes the game amazing, Metal Gear
But
Solid
it affects
2,
the physics.
Resident
It
Evil
affects
4.
the physics in Stranglehold,
Well,
and it affects
everything-
how you're running around.
door-
In Metal Gear, it doesn't matter.
Well, it should do both.
Every door you walk up to that doesn't open, every drawer you walk up to that doesn't open, everything that doesn't work the way it's supposed to breaks the illusion. All right, this one comes from Sporky Reeve. Where is your, in quotes, good enough graphics threshold? He says, we all know that graphics have served as the yardstick for the development of games. Some say too long. The Nintendo Wii is counting on their relatively less than stellar graphics being good enough for most casual and non-gamers that they attract to the system. I call this the good enough graphics threshold, the point at which a consumer knows that better visuals exist, but they don't particularly care. So, guys, what is this threshold point? Where does it fall for most people? So outside of us, because we're hardcore gamers, what does that mean for the future of this generation, the next generation, and how does something that's been very popular on our boards, how does the uncanny valley factor into this discussion?
Well, I mean, the threshold is changing. I mean, we still haven't really seen what these consoles are capable of. Like, Gears of War was the example of, oh, wow, like, games could look like this?
I mean, I want to see a game where I put it on a standard definition TV and I care what it looks like. Because right now, I mean, you've got games like Forza 2 that you can't. If you put it on a standard definition TV, you can't tell the difference between Xbox 360 and Xbox One.
Or Riddick, which we loved, you can put on a standard definition television. It looks great.
But I think that's a stupid comparison because like SD, it sucks. Like, of course, games can only look so
Yeah,
good.
but that's what everybody has.
Well,
that's what everybody has, and it doesn't matter what the hardcore gamers think that it's high definition.
Well,
that's not what everyone else.
I think it's more about style than it is about graphics.
Exactly.
Because the stuff that they've done with cell shading and variations on that. Sly Cooper and Sly 2, they still look great on PS2.
It doesn't depend what you're viewing it on. It still looks great.
Because they built the engine and the graphic style so that there was no pop-up and there was no weird drawing. It just looked good within the style that it was.
I think we're getting towards a point where no matter how good a game looks on SD, I mean, it can be like Resident Evil 4, it can be Shadow of the Colossus, whatever. Like, when things can look as good as they do on HD, it's such a huge gulf that, like, sorry, SD people, like, you're just kind of screwed. Your games aren't going to look like modern, high-tech HD
and that's great, and you can take that stance, but where the money is not that.
But isn't his point that, with the Wii, that, isn't the Wii capable of doing something that's good enough? And I think it is.
Look at Super Mario Galaxy. Yeah. Super Mario Galaxy it's not next gen, it looks in between, but it looks great.
I think it looks great. Pretty good. I don't know, like, seriously, dude, like, go look at a really good 360 game and good PS3 game, then go look at a Wii game.
Right. But right now, the Wii is winning.
Not because of graphics.
So, it doesn't matter. That's the point. HD doesn't matter. It is not a factor. I will go on record right now. HD is not a factor in these next machines. It is not a factor at all.
It will be.
Everyone wants to make it a factor. It's not.
A game I played this week that I forgot to mention because it's so bad is Tamagotchi Party.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is...
That's on Wii and DS,
it's on Wii.
Right?
John, why are you playing
I'm reviewing it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Skip. So, but that, I mean, it's like the last DS game. It's that flat sort of 3D cartoony thing. I think when you see it on no matter what kind of television, the graphics and the art it's consistent and it's weird, but it's kind of beautiful. And I think any of the machines could have done it. The PS2 could do it. The PSP could do it. I mean, it works really passably on the DS, and it's because the style and the art is appropriate for the technology, and it just looks very clean and crisp. And I think what we're going to see on the Wii is less like Zelda and more like that.
I think when 360 and PS3 games, like by mid-08, when they were looking as good as they should look, at that point, that's when everything changes. When Metal Gear Solid 4 and Mass Effect and games like that look really amazing are out there, then you can look at Wii and be like, that looks like shit.
Here's the problem. I disagree because it's all in the art direction. It's all in the caliber of the art direction and in the art style because here's why I brought the Uncanny Valley part in. The closer you get with the graphics to real, the more your eye picks out the problems and the more every little detail that's off makes you, again, the same thing as we talked about a second ago, break the illusion.
Right. So smart developers on a lesser technology they're not going to try and make it look real. It's why I think Zelda...
You're going to lose out.
Zelda, I think, is as good as we're ever going to see on the Wii. I think it's going to get that over
This was the big discussion. Yeah. Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. Which one 5 years from now will wear better? I
certainly hope the Twilight Princess aren't the best graphics we're going to see on Wii.
I think it's because I think we're going to see a lot of people doing more Wind Waker style product on Wii, because if you can position it as it's like playing a cartoon, it looks good no matter what.
It's easier, it's faster, it looks good on HD or SD, and
I think when you're
going to see more stylized games on Wii, and
to Shane's argument, there is a curve that the developers have to come up on here, which is that they have to start getting those art resources all at high res and really, really done in.
I want to see you guys go and play your Wii games when you're playing Gears of War 2 and Final Fantasy 13 and how they look then.
I will never argue with it looks better. I just argue it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, back to the point, it's good enough.
All right. On to Destiny.
That was a good one.
Yeah. That was an excellent one. Good work, Sporky Reeve. Destiny Smasher. With the Halo 3 beta out, do you think more developers will follow suit and start putting out mostly public betas for console games? So, guys...
We don't need 4 minutes on this.
Yes, they will.
Actually, let me throw you the question, and you can talk about it or not. What are the advantages or disadvantages of doing betas, and how does a beta differ from a demo?
Well, a beta doesn't have to show you everything that the game is capable of. It just has to test part of it. So the Halo beta isn't a demo because we still have absolutely no idea what the single-player game is going to be like.
But couldn't you just do a multiplayer demo? Lots of games do multiplayer demos.
Right, but then a multiplayer demo and a multiplayer beta are very similar, whereas a demo of the game is demonstrating the scope of the game, and that's not a beta's job.
I mean, the purpose of a beta is to balance it, not to show people what the game
or test.
Yeah.
Or hardware test, right? I think that you'll see more games go towards the beta route because it gives them an out.
Yeah.
Whereas when you put out a demo,
everyone assumes that's where the game's at.
Right, so you're looking at...
Look at what is it? Our Victory. The demo got just taken down after everyone was like, holy shit, this game sucks.
It's funny, after we call that game Duty of Publisher on this podcast for 6 months, talk about how bad it was, well, then they're surprised and people think it's bad. Interesting.
You'll see more people doing beta just because of that. They can get the out, they can get the feedback, and then 6 months later they can deliver a totally different experience, and they can say, look, you guys helped us.
My advice to publishers, if you have a bad game, game, don't make a demo. It's a bad game. You don't want people to play it. You want them to buy it.
This is like the don't send out the screener to the movie reviewers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you gave Hellraiser 5 a bad review. Who knew?
What I'm excited to see is actually Ubisoft is going to make End War a beta, and it's because that game is built from the ground up, like Halo Wars, for consoles. Whereas at CNC3 and stuff like that, where they've been built with the consoles in mind, but in the end they were conceived with a PC in mind. And so that's going to be interesting to see, because they're starting from the console from the ground up. It'll probably get ported to the PC anyway, but you're going to get that balance tweak on the machine from the beginning.
Well, they have a lot of stuff to do with that, with the whole voice stuff that they're doing, where, I mean, as well as the game...
that's going to work
right,
in the
but
end.
one of the things they have to test is variations in accent and variation in, like, voices, and, like, they need to throw it out to a lot of people just to test that functionality. Get a lot of people trying it, and then get the feedback, like, this game does not fucking understand me.
Yeah, and End War is supposed to come out in November, which is right around where everything else is coming again, but they were just throwing out a beta out there, and that's getting a lot of people talking about it on the internet, and then the game will come out next spring, and...
How much have we talked about Warhawk? I mean, really, with all the back and forth about what that game was or was not going to be, how much better is it going to do when it finally does come out, whatever form it takes, because of the beta?
I'm also curious to see that when it does come out, how much more... I mean, when we're playing the beta, are we playing the whole game of Warhawk? There's no indication yet on, like, is it going to be a lot more?
So there's another place. I mean, you could actually play...
They're just not saying.
You could get, it's almost like crack. Here's this game. Keep playing it. Keep playing it. Oh, you really like it? By the way, now it's going in final release. Do you want to pay for it?
No, I'm good now, thanks.
Well, how long can I keep the beta?
I don't know. How long can you keep the beta, right?
Actually, speaking of that, Halo 3 beta closes this week, right? Sunday, doesn't it close?
Sunday night at midnight.
Nick M. Cry.
Damn.
Oh, well, maybe we can give him Luke's aim, and he can...
Maybe he can go by Shadowrun.
He loves it. He loves Shadowrun.
Isn't that what Halo 3 says when the beta ends? Hey, why don't you go by Shadowrun?
Yeah.
By the way, it's $60. Fuck.
9 maps, 2 modes.
And they were all outsourced.
Oh, by the way, the demo is coming out after the game's out.
It's out, actually, this week, right?
Yeah, it came out today.
Yesterday.
All right, moving right along. Okay, so this one's a little bit longer, so bear with me. I kind of have 2 threads pulled together here. The first one is from Hylian Knight. Says
I believe that's Hylian. Do you know what that's a reference to?
God. Zelda thing.
That is a Zelda reference.
That game was before my time, I think, right?
Yeah.
It was on the...
That was on the pre-N64? My God.
Hillian Knight says the game industry as a whole seems to be in a dilemma right now as to where is the next evolution of games. On the one hand, you have the idea that we will see digitally distributed, casual, more affordable games that offer simple yet fun gameplay along the lines of Geometry Wars and Calling Out Cars. At the same time, however, we have the 4D high-def era with Blu-ray discs, huge hard drives, etc., etc.
Are you going to read this whole thing?
Yes.
No.
Isn't it basically just Wii versus downloadable games?
Shh.
That's why we hired you.
Isn't that what that whole thing says?
Which way do you guys see the market going in the immediate future, and do you think there's room for both?
And tied into that, Damn You Cryak brought up a microcosm of that.
Krychek, it's an X-Files reference.
Oh, Damn You Krychek, yes. Ooh. Which does it seem that the Epic RPG is in danger of going the way of the dodo in favor of smaller, more accessible games?
Oh, yeah, Epic RPG is over.
Oh, you know what? You're wrong, because as I pointed out here...
Excluding MMOs, there'll be the occasional
One
game...
of the biggest games we've been hype on is fucking Mass Effect.
Okay, let me talk to this. Okay, it's going in both directions. We need both things, because big budget RPGs, adventure games, action games take a long time and a lot of money to make now for next-gen consoles.
And what do you think pays for them? It's the little tiny games that cost nothing to make.
all right, fine. I'll say that Japanese epic RPGs are on the way out.
No, you know why people are saying that on threads and stuff? Because Final Fantasy
What except Final Fantasy?
Everyone's waiting and seeing. Like, if you look
they only announced like a dozen Star Oceans.
Exclude Final Fantasy.
Okay.
Star Ocean's not going to sell
Patrick,
here.
I know you're young.
You said Japanese.
Patrick, I know you're young. Go back and look at how PS1 and PS2 Japanese RPGs happened. It happens as Square leads. They're the market leader, and they lead, and everyone waits and follows. You can't you're like, oh, well, we're going to make a wild
So Final Fantasy 8 comes out, next fall? And then when are we going to get all these epic RPGs?
Final Fantasy 13 comes out next fall.
Why not?
13.
And then like Namco, like Sony, other developers, they're making games right now.
Speaking of leading, Square's always leading. For instance, you're going to get an epic RPG on your handheld in DQ9.
Yeah.
So you're saying White Knight's going to be a big seller in America?
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, are you kidding me? It's going to be a huge seller.
It looks fucking rad, dude.
What about that?
I'm not saying it doesn't look great. I'm not arguing the quality of these games, but they're not going to sell.
Yeah,
you are.
They're
so
Star
wrong.
Ocean's not going to sell.
What are we betting? What are we betting?
You're wrong. Anyway, but
You are so wrong.
What's the bar?
Next gen market?
That's the bar right
Bottle
there.
of Jameson.
Bottle of Jameson. If what?
We don't bet.
What do we think? 500K?
That's enough of that. We don't bet on games. We don't bet on game sales.
So you're betting the next Star Ocean game is going to...
No. White Knight was what we were talking about.
White Knight will sell 500K.
Easy.
Back on topic.
In its sleep.
Back on topic. The industry needs both these things now because of the nature of the beast. We have to have download games. We have to have big budget, huge, like, you know, 10
mobile
releases
games as
and
well.
mobile games. Like,
No, wait a minute. Hold on a second. When are mobile games going to really evolve in America?
They don't need to right now. Suckers are just like going to their phone and going, "Oh, Pac-Man," and then Verizon or whoever the fuck, like,
You've got a license
cruise
and you
for
download it.
$5 for it.
Yeah,
that's what's like. People like Ubisoft are putting like shitty versions of Splinter Cell out on the phone, and people are buying them, and that's what's funding the $20 million
Did you
Splinter
see,
Cell.
by the way, you know, we've both been hype on the ocean. Did you see Luminous on the ocean?
who cares?
Yeah.
Shut up. Back on topic. The blight.
Let's talk about Japanese
The
RPGs.
blight
Come on.
facing current next-gen games are movie license games. Every movie license game coming out this summer is a piece of shit, and it's almost every game. Half the games coming
Pirates.
out. Half of the games coming out on PS3 and 360 this summer are movie license games, and they're all shitty, and that's the problem.
And now
Please.
Pretty sure the only two games coming on PS3 this month, or last month, May, were Pirates and Surf's Up.
Surf's Up, Spider-Man 3, Pirates, Shrek, Fantastic Four, shit. Shitty shit. Get it off my console. It's a piece of shit. No one buy these games.
I love you when you get like this.
Good luck telling no one to buy them.
Those games should
And now there are companies that are forming to do nothing but that.
Exactly.
Oh, we're getting to that. We're getting to that.
Blast or whatever. Brash.
That's the problem.
Oh my goodness. So
yeah, we
$100 million just
Garnet,
to make licensed music
answer this
and
person,
movie and
we
TV.
need giant, expensive, huge RPGs and adventure and action games. And we also need these little bite-sized download games because what we don't need are the middling B-level PS2 port shitty Unreal 2 engine Surf's Up garbage. That seriously, Surf's Up uses Unreal 2 engine.
Surf's Up is an Unreal 2
All right,
engine?
it is. It's on 360 and PS3 using Unreal 2 engine. All right, enjoy that, kids. Seriously, all right, that's what we don't need. Publishers, you listening?
I need the noise. I need the sound skip.
That
Give it
game's
to
been in
us.
development for like 4 years, hasn't it?
100% guaranteed Unreal 2 engine.
It's a great note to end on.
I'm wrapping this up with Mr. Hierarch. Hierarch gives us a little serious note to bring this back with.
I can't get past shit.
Have you played these games? Go play Fantastic Four and tell me how you like it.
How you like me now?
I played the last one. That was fucking terrible.
Thank you.
Do politics have a place in games, asks Hierarch, which really begs the bigger question that I'll throw out there, which is how much do you want to be challenged in your entertainment?
Wait, are we talking politics or are we getting challenged in
Don't
games?
be politically challenged?
Well, I mean, he talks about politics.
Of course,
but I mean, how often do you want big issues and moral dilemmas?
So
and all that kind of
are we
stuff?
talking about like David Jaffe's canned game?
Heartland, yeah.
How often?
I mean, is that what we're talking about? Like
Exactly.
we're talking about moral decisions?
How much do you want that? Whether it be a political statement, whether it be a political statement, or it be a moral dilemma, or anything. How much do you want to be preached?
I don't think
in your
people want
entertainment?
that. I
But
don't
the
think.
reason you said Splinter Cell sucked. The reason Splinter Cell sucked is because it pussied out.
Right.
It's like either give me a moral decision or don't make
Right.
the don't
Well,
make
because-
no
So wait. How did it
consequence to
pussy out?
Because it didn't matter whether you shot
Right.
the guy or not.
You could still pick what other side after you made a decision.
There was no consequence. If games are going to force you down a moral route, there needs to be consequence. And that's what happens right now is because 90% of games are funneling you down a tunnel, and the choices you make it's just the illusion of choice. You're not
the
really
problem is
making one.
if you make a choice, then you have two branching paths, and what are you making 2 games at that point? Like the reason you can't make a choice is because they need at the end of the day they need to finish the game. And if you have these branching paths, you have these multiple games essentially you're making. So it's not
why you need the big epic RPG, because then they can block you off from a path because there are so many other things that have been developed.
Right.
But in a game like Splinter Cell or a first-person shooter, like there's just not the scope to be able to do that.
Right, I agree with John. I think the moral decisions most games offer are very artificial and forced and lame, but I do think that I like it when games tackle heavier issues. I'm a huge fan of Metal Gear Solid 2. It tackles incredibly crazy, dense issues, and like a lot of RPGs, like tons of Japanese RPGs.
Hey, Spider-Man 3 had a moral choice in it.
Oh.
Yeah, do I throw it away or do I actually try to return it even though I opened it?
But I was saying, like, RPGs in general, they do cover more stuff. A lot of RPGs tackle organized religion and, like, some other big issues facing the world.
Well, it doesn't really tackle them directly, though. Like, it's kind of interesting. Like, you've got Cross and
It's not like the way a movie will.
Do you
tackle
want to see
something.
a game like Heartland? You know, a game that going after modern today political issues? Do people even want that?
Maybe.
Do they?
Andrew does. I'll argue that.
But and if so, in what way?
Well, I think that the fundamental question that has been asked before was whether or not games or art are not. And I think the answer has already been unequivocal.
Oh, we don't want to go down this path.
Right. No, I think it's unequivocally being said that they are, because the fact that you can ask this question simply demonstrates that they are, because the fact is, how much of that do you want in your art?
And also, I think a lot of games, ultimately, they're chasing the cheap thrills. That a lot of people don't want to make a game that makes you feel bad. Because you're
And
playing
should
it,
they?
you're playing it for escapism. You're playing it for the thrill. It's because you're trying to be something that you're not, and it's always on the good side. There aren't many games where you go, "Oh, geez, I wish I didn't do that."
Do you want the Sundance film festival? I have to think about this movie to enjoy it kind of experience, or do you want the I just bought a big tub of popcorn and I'm going to sit here and watch the movie?
That is exactly the problem facing Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. That's why everybody hates it, because it's fucking deep and complex and brings up lots of issues and is not what people signed up for.
So we never answered the question: how much do we want this shit in our games?
We do. But
I want to see it, but done right.
There you go.
And I haven't seen anything done right.
It's a delicate balance.
It is a really delicate balance.
But I would like to see more people tackle it, and it pisses me off that David Jaffe didn't go through with this game. And like,
you saying he has no balls?
I don't totally buy the reason it didn't go through.
David Jaffe will kick your ass.
I don't buy that it didn't have the stats.
Jaffe will come right on here and kick your ass. You know,
I want David Jaffe to. I want him to come on somewhere and totally explain that game, because I don't buy everything he said about it yet.
He probably started off with arm wrestling.
He's down. Patrick's down.
All right. Patrick will be down also for the news segment, which is what we're going to do when we come back from the other side. That was pretty awesome. I enjoyed the hell out of that. That was fantastic. So don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. It's news time.
Three, two, one.
You're the best around.
Listen to EGM Live, the weekly podcast for Electronic Gaming Monthly, available every Monday for download at egmlive.oneup.com or podcast.oneup.com or the iTunes Music Store.
Sweep the leg! Sweep the leg, Johnny. Sweep the leg!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Mr. Patrick Klepek here for the news.
A lot of stuff going on this week, industry stuff, and I hope everyone wants to talk about Hollywood, and we're not going to talk about Paris Hilton.
We are so
she
going to talk about
doesn't
her.
have a new puzzle game coming out.
But she has a hot album that Shane's rocking.
Hey,
and a cute.
Don't knock it till you've heard it.
A cute new ankle bracelet too.
Yeah, it's not like she wrote the album; she just sang it. Quote unquote.
There's some good producers on there.
This is the news. Wow, we really lost creative control over this thing, huh?
Patrick, why don't you talk about this story?
All right. Well, first we're going to talk about the game announced this week. Bethesda finally came out and talked about Fallout 3.
They didn't talk about it. They showed a teaser.
The teaser trailer didn't really show anything. Basically just showed everyone this week. It's about like a minute long, minute and a half. Basically just showed that they understand the style, but didn't say anything about the gameplay.
Yeah, they understand the style, but they're doing it in the Oblivion engine, which is not Fallout.
But that's a much better idea. Oblivion. Oh wait, that's a series that sells like 1 million copies to console gamers. Fallout. That's a game from a long time ago that sold to a niche PC audience. I think they made the right decision.
Well, that's the big thing is that now we know it's coming to PS3 and 362. So the big question of how they're changing the gameplay is cannot understand how it would stay a 3/4 perspective turn-based game on PS3.
I think we're going to find a lot more about it. There's a non-ZIF print public cover story coming out soon.
Couple weeks. So we'll find out more about that. The GFW guys are really excited for it. They nailed the style, but I think we're going to find that the gameplay is probably going to be a lot different than what people are expecting.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a spiritual successor to Fallout 1 and 2 from the guy who originally did Wasteland, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
All right.
So maybe everyone will be happy one way or the other.
That'd be nice.
Wouldn't it be? Then we also have the announcement this week of the new SimCity. We touched on a little bit earlier through Garnett.
Is it SimCity Societies?
SimCity Societies.
Why is it just Sim Society?
Ooh.
I'm just saying.
Well, that's kind of what's come up this week is that the SimCity fan base is not feeling it at all. They haven't. I mean, the issues are just hitting subscribers this week. So
what 60-something people are? What are they saying? These old people who like SimCity.
Hey, I passed a geography exam because of SimCity.
Hey,
urban planning.
I'm not sure if that's a glowing endorsement to play the game, but
over at Calm Oaks Retirement Home,
fans are livid about this announcement. Yes.
So basically, what the fan base has been saying is that they don't feel it's SimCity, and the weird part is that Tilted Mill Entertainment, the guys that are doing the game, actually pretty much said on their boards that this isn't the SimCity. So, no,
they didn't pretty much say it. You have the book there, right?
They did.
Who is that? It's like the president of the company, right?
Yeah, the Tilted Windmills president, Chris Beatrice, said, "I don't want to mislead anyone. This SimCity is not a realistic urban simulation, which I understand to many represents the heart of when SimCity is. No one is blind to that."
Oh, so wait. So it says SimCity on it, but it's not really SimCity.
So is it The Sims City? I mean, is it more that kind of thing?
I mean, I haven't seen the game personally, Garnett, but the impression I get is, yeah, it's a more personable game. You're doing more of the...
it's hybrid. It's big-time hybrid.
Yeah.
The impression I get is that SimCity fans are like, why can't I zone for commercial loading? I don't like this new game.
I want to be laying an intricate sewer system.
But I want to go and adjust my sales tax on every item. That's my impression of SimCity fans.
It's very good.
Last time I played SimCity was when I could play it on the SNES and I could make Bowser tramp all over the city.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I thought you didn't recognize anything before the N64. How did you do that? There's a time warp there.
I've done my Wikipedia research in the last week.
But,
how else do you think I got this job?
Maybe the SimCity fans, maybe they'll like this new game. Give it a chance.
You know what? I would say the actual SimCity hardcore fan base is niche enough that it's, as much as they're upset, I don't think it's going to matter when the game comes out.
What's up, AARP guys? Give it a chance, all right?
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm pretty sure they'll come around. Also got Nintendo this week announcing another one of their gimmick games, Slide Adventure Magic Kid for the Nintendo DS. You attach a magnet to the side of the Nintendo DS, and you slide it around to control your character.
This has only been announced for Japan so far.
Correct.
Wait, what? Magnets and electronics?
It's not an actual magnet, but the game functions with a magnet, functionality.
I was like watching the screen turn purple, around the edges of it.
See, I tried to practice on my monitor, and now I need a new one.
But I bet it will come here if it's cool.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean,
we won't have to worry about that very much.
So wait, explain the game mechanic again.
I mean, it's kind of. I mean, have you? It's kind of like the Kirby game. Remember the Kirby game where you would attach like the little cartridge where you could control Kirby by moving the GBA,
right?
Yeah.
All right.
And it's basically a variation on that. It's a riff on that sort of concept. And you've got this character that you slide the DS and move him around. I don't know. So you'll see this one game use
his hips while saying this.
And you'll see this one game use it, and then you'll never use the peripheral again.
It's called
Mag Kid.
Mag Kid.
Slide Adventure Mag Kid.
Like a magnet kid.
Yes.
Slide Adventure Mag Kid. That rolls right off the tongue. Big American hit.
Yeah. And so that comes out August 2nd in Japan. Nothing about it for North America yet, but...
actually, it might actually work as a acronym.
What do you mean?
You might want to do that one for us.
Slide Action Mag Kid. SAMK.
No.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's never mind.
Can we extend the silence that we had on there a little bit longer?
Yeah. Fix that in post. All right. Moving along.
Quick, everyone got the joke. All right. So that's pretty much all the game announcers for this week. But the big thing this week was Sony Computer Entertainment America announced that they were laying off supposedly between 80 to 100 employees, but none of them were creative. This is all sort of accounting, so that none of the game development side, and thankfully none of the executives were affected.
Well, this is kind of like the same thing happened at Sony Europe a few weeks ago, and we heard that it was going to happen here too. And
the speculation is it'll happen next in Japan, right?
No, they said it's not going to happen in Japan.
It's kind of back and forth. Like we talked to Sony today, and it seems like it will happen in Japan, but we're not going to hear about it.
I mean, it's unfortunate, and we wish these guys all well, and they got severance packages. And then Sony's saying, it's not directly related to the PS3 sales or whatever. It's just a restructuring
thing.
It's a restructuring, but it happened in Europe, and then they said, well, it might happen in America and Japan, but we haven't decided yet. Fast forward 5 weeks, it's happened in America, and now you ask them, they say, well, we're not sure it's happening in Japan, but we're looking at it. And 5 weeks from now, we won't hear about it happening in Japan, I'm guessing.
Wait, they said it had nothing to do with PS3 sales. Didn't Dave Carricker have something along the lines of an explanation that it was a readjustment to fit the business model or some kind of...
It's all the key word through everything is streamlining operations.
Streamlining operations.
Which is...
Yeah.
In other words, you're not bringing in a lot of revenue, and you need to make your business model fit that.
They have to cut their costs somewhere. They didn't cut them in development. They need the games.
It's only business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's tough for the guys who actually are on the wrong side of the meetings, which was the first meeting, which were the guys who got laid off. Your thoughts with them?
I heard the severance packages were very good.
Oh, so it's not all bad.
So yeah, at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for. Then related to that, we have Nintendo rumored to be getting rid of several key executives.
Well, not getting rid of. I mean, this was a really weird story, right?
Yeah, I mean, we heard last month, Nintendo is sort of gone on the record about what they're doing, but basically they're up in Seattle, and they want to move their sales and marketing teams to New York, San Francisco. It's looking more like San Francisco as a lot of people are going.
Yeah, Nintendo.com is moving to New York City.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a lot of the sales and executives come down to this area, and basically people are given the choice, move or you get a severance package. And so the rumor is now that 3 of their key executives are not coming.
But we haven't been able to substantiate these rumors, right?
Not yet. And apparently George Harrison had said recently as the Gamers Day a couple weeks ago that he was looking at real estate down here, so...
Yeah. And Nintendo is remaining headquartered in Seattle. It's just some of the operations.
Right. So what is it? Treehouse is their translation team
up in
Seattle. That's staying there. And actually, Microsoft has already put in a bid for the space that they're giving up because Microsoft is right there anyway.
And Nintendo in Seattle, there's Microsoft buildings all around it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So as soon as real estate came up, they had already.
Yeah, we'll take that. You want to leave that big Mario there too?
We'll just paint over it anyway. It'll look like a real cute Master Chief.
There's this image of the dude in Aliens looking at the motion tracker. He's like, they're everywhere, dude.
But it's funny. This story got picked up by lots of outlets as if it's a big deal. It's this is going to change.
It's really not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
It's just public figures that people are aware of.
Yeah.
But 6 months from now, it'll just be the
And how will this affect you as listeners? Not at all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Reggie's still there. Everyone's still going to get their quotable lines in the forums.
Mario's not quitting.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So at the end of the day, there's a big brouhaha about it, but it really doesn't mean anything.
Much ado about nothing.
Yeah. Next. Then we found out yesterday that Assassin's Creed finally has a release date.
Finally.
Guess when it is? Could you possibly have guessed?
Hold on. I'm gonna guess that it'll be out in November.
You're wrong.
Oh.
Well, actually, you're right.
Oh. What do you know? Shock and awe.
It's coming out in November. We've got the normal game, and as is the standard now, we have a limited edition for $69.
What's it got in it?
It has a hand-painted Moorish tile set that depicts the origins of the Crusades.
Are you serious? That's awesome. That's
that would be worth mine $9.99.
That's so much better than the fucking duffel bag that GTA's.
No, you're gonna get a hood or something.
Harmonix wants song suggestions for Rock Band. So far, never stopped in action. Haven't asked anything, but actually, Harmonix is asking specifically on their website for people to throw in 4 songs that they would like to see in the game.
Skip has an opinion.
Unprecedented move.
This is going to be like when the band, like at the encore, is like, "Oh, we're taking requests," and everyone shouts out this everything, and like everything they've ever played, and like, okay, we'll play our like second greatest hit as a request. That's what's going to happen.
Jesus.
We're going to get a bunch of requests, and it's just to make everyone look like we're listening, and then be like, hey, well, we couldn't get the license.
No one is going to get what they want.
Yeah. There's going to be some fucking obscure Tool B-sides and 9 Inch Nail remixes and all kinds of stuff requested.
I disagree. Not on this game. This game has MTV power behind it. This game is going to be the one that hits it. This is going to be the game that's going to hook you up.
No, I'm talking about the requests that they're going to get, that I'm going to get. No, it's going to be like, there'll be some Zeppelin thing, and there'll be a Who song, and there'll be... It's going to be... Yeah.
It's cool that they're asking.
It's cool that they're asking, but
at least they're listening.
Do you really believe that they mean it?
Yes. No, actually, I do. I think someone's going to finally take this take this music game idea as what it is, a license to print money. You get it right. If you're the guy that has the right songs with the right hits, it is nothing more than a license to print money.
If it was anybody but Harmonix, I would call total bullshit on it. But I mean, Harmonix, just like
Harmonix,
ago,
EA,
they gave $4,000 to ScoreHero.com just to fund themselves to buy new servers.
Yep.
All right, I've talked a lot of good stuff about Rock Band, how it's going to be really better than Guitar Hero 3, and I've talked to people who've played it, and once again, I want to reiterate, Rock Band is going to be huge.
There's stuff
about this game. There's stuff about the controllers. There's things you don't know. That when this stuff gets revealed, you're gonna lose your shit. It's
total.
Unfucking believable. There you go.
Next coming, Rock Band,
huge,
confirmed,
huge.
At least have a better track list than Guitar Hero 2.
And ultimately, complete Urge integration.
And we also have this week, it's really confusing. All right, so you've got, Monolith's Fear, which came out, but Monolith doesn't own the name Fear anymore. So they are running a contest to rename the game because they own the story, the characters.
I thought this was the name of the sequel.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
Right. So it's the name, but they don't own the name.
Name Fear, but it can't be Fear 2.
They have the story and the characters, but it can't be called anymore. But Vivendi owns the name Fear and can make a sequel called Fear 2 that has absolutely nothing to do with the first game.
Nice.
Wow.
Look forward to Fall 08.
And you know what? They'll all be filled with office buildings and warehouses.
It might be easier not to play either one. That's my suggestion.
Look, here's another really boring room.
And by the way, Monolith, instead of doing all that, make me another fucking No One Lives Forever.
Or a Shogo.
Make me another Nolf.
Or another Matrix on... Oh, no, wait.
Or Shogo. Yeah, Shogo. And actually, I'll take another Kate Archer adventure and Shogo. And screw this whole Fear thing.
So looking for a name, and we probably...
Acronyms welcome.
Next.
Oh, plenty.
And it's was it nameyourfear.com or something?
Nameyourfear.com, yeah. And then more Hollywood stuff. Hollywood Trio forms own game publisher. It's this company, Brash Entertainment. We mentioned them very briefly before. They have $400 million in capital to start making games.
They can blow that in 6 months.
All they're making is just music, TV, and movie games.
Well, they announced their first license as well.
They haven't officially announced it, but Variety had sourced Saw, which clearly adapts itself to a video game.
Torture.
Yeah,
sure.
Thank you for continuing to further the reputation of the video game industry, guys. Thank you.
Obviously, it'll be a Wii game.
Jack Thompson looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But okay, we were poo-pooing the movie license games earlier, but maybe this company Brash, their idea is, we're going to take these licenses and make good games out of them. And
come on, this first one. But that's Saw. I mean, great, exactly what we need. Another fucking horror game.
This is what Warner Brothers tried to do 2 years ago. They tried to institute they said they were going to look at their games and they were going to grade how companies made their licensed games.
We were talking earlier on about morals and action. Go after something like, I don't know, Munich. There, it's got action, it's got some moral choices, there's some meat to it. You got $400 million in funding, you can go do something really substantial. But no, Saw. And not even Saw. Is it Saw 3?
Well, it's supposedly based on Saw 3, which isn't even coming out this fall. Saw 4 is.
Hostel 2 was already taken.
There's a Saw 4?
There's a Saw 4 coming out in October.
Well, you did mention that the Warner...
So they're not even on the same page with the sequels.
All right, you mentioned the Warner deal, how they wanted to make sure their licenses were good games. And the first games come out that were Catwoman and Batman Begins, which are both pieces of shit.
Well, we're getting now Batman Lego.
That might be good.
and a Lego MMO.
Hey, Lego MMO, I'm really into that.
Oh, wait a minute, Andrew's into that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke.
All right,
myself.
I wish Brass the best. Maybe they're going to do it right. We'll see.
Yeah, they've got Saw and they've got 300. 300 lends itself to the beat 'em up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that could be a great game.
Where were you 2 years ago?
They made a PSP game.
And there you have it.
They've
Next.
got $400 million. Let's see what happens. And then we have John Woo, thank God, isn't making the Spy Hunter movie anymore. But
wait, why is that a thank God?
I don't need.
You don't like John Woo movies?
He doesn't like Spy Hunter movies.
He's lost it.
Really?
Anyway,
I like John Woo movies.
That's a separate discussion. But anyway, we have someone much better, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yes.
Good one.
AVP guy?
Oh my God.
That's Paul Thomas Anderson, that's Punch Drunk Love, blah, blah, blah. This is Paul W. Anderson, famous for Alien vs. Predator. But I will argue...
Starship Troopers?
Yes.
Right?
No,
right?
No.
Those were Overhoven. All these Pauls.
He made Showgirls, which we watched.
Doesn't matter. This confirms that in 3 years you will be able to watch Spy Hunter at least 3 times a month on TNT.
I think what concerns me the most is that the Spy Hunter movie license game came out
with The Rock
last year. Last year.
Yeah.
Just saying.
This is the thing with The Rock in it, right?
Yeah.
Right. And he did the whole motion capturing, and there was a big brouhaha about it, and now the game doesn't matter.
Not so much.
But I will say, Mortal Kombat is the original is a great video game adaptation. That is a good movie.
What the fuck does that have to do with this?
That's the same director.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
But he's done nothing but shit since.
He earned some credibility from that.
He did Mortal Kombat and Event Horizon.
I'm excited for Uwe Boll's postal movie.
Event Horizon. That is actually a good movie.
It is a good movie. That's his too. So anyway,
all right.
We'll see.
Good might be a bit strong.
He's attached. He's
okay. It's watchable at 3:00 in the morning when you're really drunk.
Okay.
I wouldn't put much stock in this because Anderson also said he was doing the Castlevania movie, and he's not doing that anymore either. So
we'll see.
All right, next.
We have New Line, who is taking this Donkey Kong documentary. I'm not sure if you guys have seen much about this. King of Kong. And New Line there. 2 companies picked it up. One company picked up the documentary, and now somebody's turning it in to an actual, comedy film.
Huh?
Yeah.
So they're making
they're making a real movie out of a documentary.
Well, because I heard that the plot of this documentary is so absurd that it lends itself to a fictional comedy. Yeah.
Right. So we'll see.
So what's the documentary is about people that are very good at playing Donkey Kong?
Yeah.
Well, it's about 2 people in particular who are battling to be the #1 player in the world, and the crazy lengths they go to sabotage each other, and yeah.
But the interesting part is the same guy that's doing the documentary is directing the new
fictional
one.
film.
Right. Was this filmed in 1988?
No, it's current.
No, this is current.
All right.
Wow.
Next.
And the one
that was a weighty silence.
The one that makes me the most excited, Uwe Boll managed to score a 3-picture deal. They get his next 3 movies out.
3?
3
Not 1,
deal.
not 2.
3 deal.
That's your best friend.
Which
You've talked to him on the phone.
I have. I'll get to it. So he scored the 3-picture deal with this freestyle releasing.
Tell me there's another Blood Rain in there.
Who gives a shit? Well, there's a Blood Rain 2 coming. It's not a part of the deal. Doesn't have Kristanna Loken.
So what 3 films are in this deal?
The 3 films in this distribution deal are In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale.
Starring Burt fucking Reynolds.
No. Not just Burt Reynolds. Starring Jason Statham, who was in The Transporter and most recently Crunk.
He is actually a badass.
Crank. Ray Liotta.
What? No shit.
Hold on.
Slumming a little bit. Yeah.
Ron Perlman.
Nice.
Somebody will know. John Rhys Davies.
Gimli. He sucks.
And Sliders.
Matthew Lillard.
From Scream.
And Burt Reynolds.
That's the dream.
And the best part is this movie is getting released January 18th of next year.
Fantastic.
I interviewed him when I was an intern 2 years ago while he was filming this movie.
Awesome.
I did an hour and a 15-minute interview where in between questions, I'd hear him go off the phone on his cell phone yelling, I want more face acting and more arrows. And, I love Uwe Boll. His movies are fucking great. They're absolute trash.
I went and saw Blood Rain day 1.
Alone in the Dark.
Oh, I saw that in
It's a great movie. It's so bad.
What the fuck? Tara Reid, I don't buy her as a high school graduate, let alone
a scientist.
An archaeologist.
Yes. So anyway.
What are the other 2 films?
The other one is, I'll get the one we don't care about, by the way. It's called Seed. It's one of his original films.
Next.
And then the other one is Postal.
Starring Kids in the Hall.
No.
Zach Ward, Dave Foley.
Oh, yes.
And Uwe Boll himself. He's in the movie. He characterizes himself in the movie as a crazy German director. So at least... who's like a puppet master. It's if you've seen any of the fucking clips from the movie, he's got crazy ass 9/11 stuff, and this movie is going to generate a ton of publicity just based on its content. And the best part is, it's opening in only 500 theaters, and then it opens wider based on what happens with the movie. Because they know either the movie's going to come out, everyone's going to be like, holy shit, this movie is just terrible, and they'll bury it, or the controversy is going to allow it to open in a ton of theaters, which I bet is what's going to happen.
Probably not. I mean, you and I obviously see eye to eye. We saw, Blood Rain and Alone in the Dark.
I've seen every UV Bowl movie, and I am not ashamed of it.
If you're a gamer who enjoys bad movies, you really should go see his films.
You should. And the best part, the moment I saw this news, the only thing that got me excited was like, I have 2 more chances to interview him. Yeah. Over the next 8 months.
Be careful, dude. He'll punch you out though. He's tough.
I don't plan to fight him.
All right, good.
I'm sticking over the phone.
That's for the best.
Then also, City of Heroes, one of the... You were bitching about this earlier, licensed games, Transformers. The Transformers producer is bringing City of Heroes and Villains to a movie/TV show.
What? Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know.
It's so far off. It's at least 2 or 3 years.
When you make...
so this project will die before it gets
when you make a film based on popular superheroes like Spider-Man and Superman, okay, that has a base. But when you make a film based on a game where you make your own superhero, that's not really a good license. Sorry, guys.
Is this going to be like the World of Warcraft movie?
The quote itself quotes how... the game has a bunch of colorful characters.
Hold on. What was that, Andrew?
That'd be awesome.
Oh, the World of Warcraft movie would be awesome.
Not so much.
It would be like Clash of the Titans, except World of the Warcrafts.
Could be really cool.
It could be really cool.
Probably won't.
We've lost John completely.
He's comatose.
He's just biting on his pen at this point.
Uh-huh. You got any more great movies to tell us about?
We're done with Hollywood. We're done with Hollywood.
Video games.
Hey, John, you going to the Hollywood and Games Summit?
Thank God.
Not now. Will you all be there?
Well, I hope.
God, I hope so.
Because he is the Hollywood and Games culture.
As soon as I get offered that assistant position to work in his staff.
Yeah, him and Paul W.S. Anderson, not to be confused
I'm pretty
with
sure they're starting a
Paul
company
Verhoeven
together.
or any of the other Pauls.
We've got Electronic Arts starting a casual games division, specifically just to develop casual games. I thought that was Pogo. No, I was going to say.
They own Pogo.
They own Pogo, but if you read through the story, they basically say that's the concentration anyway. They're basically just spinning off Pogo into a casual brand.
Soccer moms rejoice.
Exactly. Thrilling.
I mean, didn't they just release a Nintendo DS game that was just a
Pogo Island
games?
Yep. Soccer moms, they rejoice, and John. Did you rejoice?
No, I didn't rejoice.
Oh, okay, good.
So you playing that?
Played it.
Are you?
There's a difference.
Shane's been playing it curiously on the 38 to see if any girls sitting around him would be interested.
No, I think it's interesting that a bunch of stuff that's free is then $30 on a DS. Not quite sure how that works. There's a couple of things that are behind the $5 wall on the DS game, but it's simple stuff. But there's some casual stuff that EA have done that's been pretty good, and I'm sure there's going to be more variations on Luxor and Buster Move that we can all enjoy.
I hear the cake genre is blowing up on DS. They should make a cake game. And I'm not kidding. Sadly.
The cake genre. What would be the
brains?
The cake
and brain genre is very, very popular right now.
Cake and brain genre.
Hey, you could mix them together. Cake brain.
I like my cake with shrimps.
That's probably a game coming DS.
Cake and shrimps.
Next.
All right. We've got Bill Gates. He was just with Steve Jobs when they talking about an all-digital summit, and he talked about how he invited the audience to imagine a game machine where you're just going to pick up the bat and swing it, or your tennis racket and swing it. And immediately.
Wait, I think I've imagined that game.
Immediately, someone said, "Isn't that the Wii?" And he's like, "No, of course not.
Of course not.
That's not it.
It's the $10,000 Microsoft Surface. That's what it is. Come on, don't you guys know? Right? You want to buy that?
You draw the racket, and then you can pick it up and swing it.
No. What did he say?
He said, "No, that's not it. You can't pick up your tennis racket.
Of course not. Why would?"
You can't sit there with your friends and do natural things because swinging a remote's not like swinging a tennis racket."
It kind of is, actually, Bill.
They are sort of remotely similar.
He basically says he wants an advanced eye toy.
Oh.
He wants he calls it video recognition. So he's basically saying he kind of wants like an advanced eye toy that recognized everything you did. So you could pick up a tennis racket and the video would recognize that you're picking up a tennis racket, which sounds really expensive and obscene.
My response to that is, Bill, it's nice to want things.
Oh, and by the way, Bill, things break.
That too. It's nice to want things and then they break.
And then they break. It's nice to want things and they break.
So
Next.
we'll see. And then Valve does this thing where they monitor everyone who's using their Steam service.
Oh,
and
this is great.
It monitors their specs, and then the nice thing is they put it online and they don't filter it. They just dumps into a table.
So Patrick, how many people are ready for the next generation of PC gaming?
All right. Well, when we wrote the story, it was earlier this week, and just 5%, like 5.01% of people were using.
Wait, what's
that would be over 5%.
What's the criteria for being prepared for next gen PC gaming?
Basically, DX10 and Vista, and only 5% of people on Steam are using Vista.
Are you surprised given the soft sales of Vista so far?
And I checked 20 minutes before we started this podcast, and it jumped to 5.4.
Oh, excellent, 5.4. By the way, Halo 2 going to be a big hit. Lots of people are going to be rushing out to buy Vista so they can play 3 years ago's Xbox big hit Halo 2.
So is this a bigger problem? Like, are the soft sales of Vista like a problem facing PC gaming?
No, not really, because here's the deal with PC gaming. PC gaming, by the time Vista finally catches on, we'll have a generation or two more of hardware, and the PCs will catch up to being able to play Crysis, and you'll be able to put Crysis on a nice widescreen and blow the shit out of everybody's mind.
Wait a minute. How many people are on Steam? It's like 15 million or something?
Yeah, it's huge.
Well, 5% of 15 million is still a respectable number. So to your point about Halo, they could still sell, 300,000?
Yeah? Oh, yeah. That would... I'm sure there's some accountant in Microsoft going, yeah, I'd like to sell 300,000 Halo 2s for Vista.
Okay, well, there's the market. I mean... What game on PS3 has a hope in hell of doing 300,000 units right now?
Well, but I think what this says
Surf's Up.
Is
talk to me in January.
Well, I think what this says is the next Sims probably won't require Vista and DX10. That's what I'm thinking.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, that's
even
going out on a limb there.
Even Crysis doesn't require DX10. It'll run on DX9.
It will.
And
but if you want that sexy jungle look, you're going to have to go for DX10.
Whatever.
But for games like Halo 2 that do require these things, not so much, maybe.
Does Halo 2 require DX10?
Halo 2 is a DX10 Vista only game.
And
it's a Vista only game.
DX10 users on Steam are only...
It's a Vista only game.
Yeah, it's not DX10.
It's Vista only.
Right. DX10 users on Steam are only 1.24%.
Yikes.
That's rough.
But you have to remember, like, the card alone for a DX10 card is like the price of a PS3.
And it's been a closed market up until just a couple of weeks ago.
There are no games that take advantage. Specifically, I think just this week, Company Heroes just released a patch. Just released a patch for it. Lost Planet will take advantage of it, but really, there's not a compelling reason. ATI just came into the market. It had previously been NVIDIA, and everyone's complained about the NVIDIA drivers. So, yeah, it's immature.
It's like bleeding edge. I mean, give it a year.
It's very immature.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Vista's early. Nothing to worry about. They're going to sell a bunch through business. One of the things I found interesting this week was Capcom reported their financial sales, and 90% of Lost Planet and Dead Rising sales were completely outside of Japan.
Yeah, but that's because the number of installed units in Japan was so low, despite the fact they sold to everybity in Japan. It wasn't that many.
Shocking newsflash, Xbox 60 not popular in Japan.
Not so popular in Japan.
In fact, it sold... In fact, in case you don't know, it's actually sold less units than the Xbox One sold in Japan, and the Xbox One never sold its initial shipment in Japan, ever. If you go buy an Xbox One in Japan, you're buying one from the initial shipment on day one.
Oh, Shane, you hater.
No, I'm not a hater. I'm a realist. I'm telling you what's up.
The question is, once we start seeing these games on PS3 as well, is that going to be the same scenario where they're selling so much more toward North America? Because Dead Rising is a North America game.
Those games are aimed more towards American audiences.
Yes.
True.
Believe it or not, right now on 1UP, the second most popular article on 1UP, behind, I think, Need for Speed Pro Street, is the Dead Rising walkthrough.
Oh, my God.
It's still because that game's all secrets and intricacies and hating the save system.
And hating the save system.
Got Activision getting investigated from the SEC. Boring. And that wraps up news for this week.
Oh, well.
Nice finish.
That was a strong
good.
Mr. Patrick Klepek on the news mic. You know what? I got to tell you, dude, it is awesome to be able to sit on this side and snipe news. I miss that.
I got to say, you're not quite as hairy as Luke Smith.
If that's a problem, I can't cut off the hair that's on top of my head and paste it to myself if that makes you feel better.
It would.
And there you have it,
I'll
folks.
see what I can do.
That is the One Up Yours program for this week. Don't miss anything. Come and talk to us on boards.oneup.com. I have commitments from these gentlemen right here.
I gotta say, kids, when you go and post on the boards in the thread about this show, why not say something, I don't know, interesting? Because, I wanted to
Oh, wait a minute.
That's really going to work out
I'm calling you out, kids. I wanted to post on thread last week, but there's literally nothing there for me to talk about. Like, I was about to be like, what do you kids want to talk about? But that's not my job. You guys should put things in the thread that make me
Shane, you should talk about Bump. Bump. I don't know. There were a couple of people who typed "bump" as their thread. That was their thread. Their thread was "bump."
That'll get you banned.
Oh, a bump. Oh, how long will that get you banned? And Mr. Andrew Fisher, how long will that get you banned for?
Long time.
A long time. You want a long time ban?
Yeah. So
long time ban, go bump.
If you hear something you like, you have questions, you want to talk to us, engage us on the boards. We're there. We want to talk to you. All right.
Boards.oneup.com. Go there now. Until next week, we are Ghost.